I sat at my parents' Thanksgiving table listening to my mother tell our relatives I was temporarily unemployed. My sister Kelsey laughed and added, "Let's be honest, she's been a failure for years." The entire room went silent, their pitying eyes confirming what my family had always believed I was nothing. What they didn't know, I'd been hiding the truth for 5 years. While they assumed I was struggling to find work, I'd actually built a healthcare technology platform that saved thousands of lives across America. I'd revolutionized elderly care, connected isolated patients to life-saving treatments, and changed the future of medicine. But I never told them. I wanted to see who they really were when they thought I had nothing. And tonight they showed me everything. My mother's casual cruelty, my sister's vicious mockery, the relatives' uncomfortable silence. I absorbed every word, every dismissive glance, every patronizing smile. I'd driven 3 hours to be humiliated at my own family's table. Then my father shouted, "Oh my God, everyone look at the TV!" The screen showed the Presidential Medal of Freedom announcement, and there my face stared back from every television in America. The wine glass slipped from my mother's trembling hand. What happened next shattered my family completely. Because when the truth exploded into that room, it didn't just reveal my success, it exposed every lie they'd told, every manipulation they'd hidden, and every dark secret they'd buried for decades. This is the story of how I went from the invisible daughter to the woman who brought an entire toxic family to its knees without saying a single word. My name is Amber Reynolds. I'm 37 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been the founder and CEO of a healthcare technology platform that's revolutionized how elderly Americans access medical care. But as I drive through the winding autumn roads toward my parents' home in rural Ohio, none of that matters. To them, I'm still just the eldest daughter who never quite measured up. The November air is crisp and golden leaves swirl across the highway like nature's own confetti, celebrating something I can't quite name. My hands grip the steering wheel a little too tightly as familiar landmarks begin appearing through the windshield. There's the old Miller farm with its red barn listing slightly to one side. There's the Methodist church where I sang in the choir every Sunday until I was 18. There's the grocery store where I worked after school while my sister Kelsey got driven home to do whatever she pleased. I've made this drive a dozen times, maybe more, and every single time I tell myself it will be different. That maybe this year they'll see me. Really see me. Not the role they assigned me when I was born, the responsible one. The helper. The one who takes care of things, but the actual person I've become. The responsible one. God, how I've grown to hate those words. I was 5 years old the first time I understood what they meant. Kelsey was barely a year old, crying in her crib while Mom tried to finish cooking dinner. Dad was working late as usual. Mom looked at me with exhausted eyes and said, "Amber, honey, you're the big sister now. Big sisters help. Can you watch your sister for just a few minutes?" Those few minutes turned into hours, then days, then years. By the time I was 10, I was packing Kelsey's lunches, helping her with homework, braiding her hair for school pictures. Mom would smile and tell relatives, "Amber is such a natural caretaker. She's going to make a wonderful mother someday." What she really meant was Amber is useful. And useful people don't get to be tired. They don't get to have bad days or need support or ask for help. They exist to serve to smooth things over, to sacrifice whatever needs sacrificing so everyone else can shine. I learned early that my feelings were inconvenient. When I was 12 and didn't make the soccer team, something I'd practiced for all summer, Mom barely looked up from helping Kelsey with her art project. "That's too bad, honey. Can you start the laundry? I'm really behind today." When I got accepted to 3 universities at 17, the celebration lasted exactly as long as it took to read the letters before Mom started worrying aloud about how we'd afford it and whether I should just stay local to help with Kelsey's college preparation. Every milestone I reached was immediately translated into how it affected everyone else. My achievements were never about me, they were about what they meant for the family, for Kelsey, for maintaining the careful balance where I remained useful but never quite special. The weight of these memories sits heavy in my chest as I take the exit toward my parents' subdivision. I know exactly what tonight will bring because it's the same thing every year brings. I'll arrive and Mom will hug me quickly before immediately asking if I can help set the table. I'll spend 2 hours in the kitchen preparing dishes while Kelsey holds court in the living room, entertaining relatives with stories about her latest promotion or her new apartment or whatever accomplishment she's currently inflating beyond recognition. At dinner, someone will ask what I'm doing these days, and before I can answer, Mom will jump in with some vague explanation that makes me sound perpetually lost. The relatives will nod sympathetically and change the subject. Kelsey will make some cutting remark disguised as sisterly teasing. Everyone will laugh, and I'll smile and take another bite of turkey and pretend it doesn't feel like swallowing glass. Last year, Uncle Mike asked me directly, "So, Amber's still looking for the right career path?" I'd opened my mouth to tell him about the platform I was building, about the beta testing we were running with 300 elderly patients across 5 states, about the partnerships we were forming with major hospital systems. But Mom had interrupted. "She's exploring her options. You know Amber, she's always been a late bloomer." A late bloomer. At 36 years old. I'd looked down at my plate and said nothing. Because what was the point? They'd decided who I was decades ago, and no amount of reality was going to change that narrative. But here's what they don't know, what I've deliberately kept hidden for 5 years. I haven't been exploring my options, or between jobs, or any of the other polite euphemisms my mother uses to describe what she assumes is my failure to launch. I've been building something extraordinary. Something that saved lives. Something that's about to change everything. My platform connects elderly patients in rural and underserved areas with medical specialists through an intuitive interface designed specifically for people with limited technology experience. It coordinates prescription deliveries, schedules, transportation to appointments, monitors vital signs through simple devices, and most critically provides immediate emergency response connection. Last year alone, we facilitated over 15,000 medical consultations that wouldn't have happened otherwise. We prevented hospitalizations. We caught diseases early. We saved lives. And I did it all while my family assumed I was failing. I kept it secret deliberately. I wanted to know who they really were when they thought I had nothing. I wanted to see if their love was conditional on my success, or if they'd value me just for being their daughter, their sister. The answer became clear pretty quickly. But despite everything, despite the years of being overlooked and underestimated and used, some pathetic part of me still hopes. Still wants them to suddenly see me, to recognize that I have value beyond my usefulness. That hope is what brings me back here every year, even though I know better. I pull into the familiar driveway, parking behind Dad's truck. The house looks the same as always. White siding, slightly yellowed with age, black shutters, the porch light already glowing in the early evening darkness. Through the front window, I can see movement relatives already arriving, the party already starting without me. I turn off the engine and sit in the sudden silence. My hands are still gripping the steering wheel. I force myself to release them, to take a deep breath, to gather whatever strength I'll need to walk through that door and become invisible again. Just one more Thanksgiving, I tell myself. Just get through one more. I grab my purse and the pie I picked up at the bakery, because of course I'm expected to bring something, and step out into the cold November air. The front door opens before I even reach it, and there's Mom smiling that tight smile she reserves for obligations. "Amber, you're here finally. Come help me in the kitchen, we're running behind." Not, "I'm glad to see you," or "I've missed you," or even, "How was your drive?" Just straight to what I can do for her. I force a smile and walk inside, unaware that in less than 2 hours, everything I've carefully hidden will explode into the open, and this family will never be the same again. Mom's whisper comes as I'm still standing in the doorway, before I've even had a chance to set down the pie. She leans in close, her breath warm against my ear, her hand gripping my elbow with surprising firmness. "Remember, don't outshine Kelsey today. She's been having a hard time lately, and I don't want her to feel bad." The words land like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. I'm 37 years old, and yet in this moment I feel exactly like I did at 16, being pulled aside before my high school award ceremony and told to let Kelsey have her moment, even though I'd won 3 academic honors and she'd gotten a participation certificate for showing up to drama club. I nod automatically, the motion so practiced it requires no conscious thought. What else can I do? Argue. Explain that I've spent 5 years deliberately hiding my success specifically to avoid this kind of request. Tell her that I've already made myself so small in this family that I'm practically invisible. Of course, Mom, I hear myself say. And I hate how easily the words come, how trained I am to accommodate, to shrink, to disappear. She pats my arm, satisfied already, turning away to greet Aunt Carol, who's just come through the door with a covered dish. Carol, oh, you brought your famous sweet potato casserole. Come in, come in. I stand there holding my bakery pie, feeling foolish. Mom didn't even look at what I brought. Didn't say thank you. Didn't ask how my drive was or whether I'm doing okay. Just straight to her request, her need, her agenda. And the worst part? The part that makes my chest tight and my eyes sting is that she doesn't even realize she's done anything wrong. This is just how things are, how they've always been. In her mind, she's simply managing family dynamics, keeping the peace, making sure everyone has a nice holiday. She probably thinks she's being a good mother by protecting Kelsey's feelings. It doesn't occur to her that I have feelings too. I make my way to the kitchen, setting the pie on the already crowded counter. The house is filling up quickly now. I can hear Uncle Mike's booming laugh from the living room, Aunt Carol asking about the grandkids' cousins exchanging hugs and holiday greetings. The familiar sounds of family gathering, of belonging. Sounds that somehow don't include me. I'm arranging the pie among the other desserts when they start arriving in the living room. First, Uncle Mike spots me through the doorway. Amber, there you are, still trying to find your direction. The question is delivered with such genuine sympathy that it's almost worse than if he'd been cruel. He really believes he's being kind, showing interest in the struggling niece who can't seem to get her life together. Something like that. I manage, forcing a smile. Aunt Carol appears next, tilting her head in that way people do when they're about to deliver pity disguised as concern. How are you holding up, sweetheart, still looking for the right opportunity? I'm doing fine, actually. I start to say, but she's already moving on, her attention caught by something in the living room. My answer doesn't really matter. The question was rhetorical, a social pleasantry, not an actual inquiry into my life. Cousin Jennifer is next, giving me a hug that feels more obligatory than warm. Mom told me you're between things right now. That must be so hard. But don't worry, everyone finds their path eventually. Look at my friend Sarah. She didn't figure out what she wanted to do until she was almost 40. I'm 37, I want to say, and I've already figured it out, 5 years ago. But instead, I just nod and smile and let her pat my shoulder like I'm a child who needs reassuring. The pattern continues as more relatives arrive. Each one has apparently been briefed by my mother on my situation. Each one feels compelled to offer some version of the same sympathetic acknowledgement of my presumed failure. Their head tilts and gentle pats and reassuring smiles pile up like small cuts, each one individually bearable but collectively devastating. What's striking is that not one of them actually asks me a direct question about my life. Not what I've been working on, not where I'm living now, not how I'm really doing. They operate entirely on assumption, on whatever narrative my mother has fed them over the phone in the weeks leading up to today. The assumption that I'm unsuccessful has calcified into fact through sheer repetition. It doesn't matter that it's not true. It doesn't matter that I could correct them. The story has been told so many times that it's become more real than reality itself. I retreat to the kitchen, unable to bear another pitying smile. At least here I can be useful. At least here my hands can stay busy while my heart quietly fractures. Mom is pulling dishes from the oven, her face flushed from the heat. Oh, good, you're here. Can you mash the potatoes? And someone needs to slice the turkey. Where did your father go? And we need the good serving dishes from the china cabinet, the ones with the blue trim, not the everyday ones. The requests come rapid fire, each one assumed to be my responsibility, not asked assigned. She doesn't say please or thank you. She doesn't acknowledge that I just drove 3 hours to be here. She simply expects my service the way you'd expect a hired caterer to do their job. I find the potato masher and get to work the repetitive motion oddly soothing. At least this is a task with clear parameters, a beginning and an end. At least here I know what's expected of me. Not too much butter, Mom says, glancing over my shoulder. You always make them too rich. I adjust accordingly, adding milk instead. Accommodating. Always accommodating. Through the doorway I can see the relatives settling into the living room, drinks in hand, laughing and chatting. Nobody comes to help in the kitchen. Nobody offers. It's simply understood that this is my domain, my role, my purpose. I'm halfway through the potatoes when I hear the sharp, distinctive click of expensive high heels on the hardwood floor. The sound slices through the ambient noise of conversation like a knife commanding attention. The living room goes suddenly noticeably quiet, then Mom's voice high and delighted. Kelsey, oh sweetheart, you look absolutely gorgeous. I don't need to look up to know what's happening. Kelsey has arrived, and with her arrival I become even more invisible than before. The real star of the show has entered, and everyone, including our mother, will now orbit around her like planets around the sun. I keep mashing potatoes, my jaw tight, and wait for what I know is coming next. I keep my eyes on the potatoes, but I can hear everything. The squeal of delight from Aunt Carol. Uncle Mike's appreciative whistle. The chorus of voices overlapping. Kelsey, you look amazing. That dress is stunning. Come here and give me a hug. My sister has perfected the art of the entrance. I'll give her that much. When I finally glance up, she's in the center of the living room, turning slowly like a model on a runway to show off her outfit. The dress is designer. I recognize the label from the distinctive cut, probably worth more than my car payment. Her hair is professionally styled, cascading in perfect waves over her shoulders. Her makeup is flawless, her jewelry carefully chosen to look expensive without being gaudy. She looks like success. She's always been good at that. Mom rushes over, pulling Kelsey into an embrace that lasts at least 3 times longer than the hug she gave me. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so glad you're here. Everyone look at my beautiful daughter. The possessive pronoun stings more than it should. My beautiful daughter. Singular. As if she only has one. Dad emerges from wherever he's been hiding and wraps Kelsey in a bear hug, lifting her slightly off the ground despite her heels. She laughs, a practiced musical sound. Daddy, you're going to wrinkle my dress. Can't help it, Princess. We missed you. Princess. He hasn't called me that since I was 6. Mom is already pulling out her phone. We need pictures. Everyone gather around Kelsey. Relatives cluster around my sister, arranging themselves for the perfect shot. Aunt Carol adjusts her position. Uncle Mike sucks in his stomach. Cousin Jennifer smooths her hair. Nobody looks toward the kitchen. Nobody suggests that maybe the other daughter should be in the family photo. I watch through the doorway, potato masher still in my hand, and feel like I'm observing my family through glass. Present, but separate. Visible, but unseen. Mom takes at least a dozen photos, directing people like a professional photographer. One more. Okay, now just the siblings Kelsey, Jennifer, and Michael get together. She doesn't call for me. The omission isn't even conscious, I don't think. It simply doesn't occur to her that I might want to be included. I turn back to the potatoes and finish mashing them with perhaps more force than necessary. By the time we all sit down for dinner, Kelsey has been thoroughly celebrated. She's told everyone about her apartment renovation, her recent vacation to Napa, her new car. The relatives hang on every word as if she's describing a journey to the moon rather than ordinary life events that millions of people experience. We're barely halfway through the meal when she drops her news. So I have an announcement, she says, pausing dramatically for effect. I got promoted last week. The table erupts. Congratulations fly from every direction. Dad raises his glass. Mom actually tears up. "Oh, honey, we're so proud of you. Tell us everything," Aunt Carol demands. Kelsey launches into her story with practiced enthusiasm. She's moving from senior marketing coordinator to marketing strategy associate. New title, new business cards, new nameplate on her cubicle wall. I happen to know because I maintain a thorough understanding of the professional landscape, even in industries I don't work in, that this is essentially a lateral move. Same pay grade, same responsibilities, just repackaged with a trendier title. Her company did a restructuring 3 months ago. I read about it in the business journals. They shifted everyone's titles around to make the organizational chart look more modern without actually promoting anyone or increasing salaries. But Kelsey is selling it like she's been appointed CEO. They said I showed exceptional strategic thinking, she gushes, and that my vision aligned perfectly with the company's future direction. My boss told me I'm being groomed for leadership. The relatives murmur their approval. What a go-getter. What an achiever. What a success story. I take a bite of turkey and say nothing. What would be the point if I questioned any detail of her story? I'd immediately become the jealous sister who can't be happy for Kelsey's success. The bitter older sibling who tears others down. The family would close ranks around her, and I'd be the villain. So I stay silent, as I always do, and let her have her moment. But then Kelsey's attention turns to me and I feel her gaze like a spotlight I never asked for. "So, Amber," she says, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "What about you? You still don't have a real job, right?" The table goes quiet. A few people shift uncomfortably in their seats. I meet her eyes across the table. She's smiling, but there's something sharp and satisfied in her expression. She knows exactly what she's doing. "I guess you're used to it by now," she continues, taking a sip of wine. "Some people are just late bloomers. Or maybe not bloomers at all." There's a beat of silence, and then Uncle Mike chuckles nervously. Someone else laughs. Then a few more join in, treating Kelsey's cruelty as if it's playful sibling banter rather than the calculated strike it actually is. "Kelsey," Dad says mildly, but there's no real reproach in his tone. Just a gentle suggestion that maybe she should be nicer without any actual expectation that she will be. Mom doesn't say anything at all. She's cutting her turkey into precise pieces, eyes on her plate. I force my face into a neutral expression, refusing to give Kelsey the satisfaction of seeing how deeply her words cut. But inside, I'm 18 again, standing in the guidance counselor's office, being told that my full-ride scholarship to MIT had been withdrawn due to concerns about my character and commitment. Concerns that originated from a letter someone sent to the scholarship committee. A letter claiming I'd cheated on my entrance exams, that I'd plagiarized my application essay, that I was dishonest and untrustworthy. The accusations were completely false, but by the time I proved it, the scholarship had been awarded to someone else. The runner-up happened to be a student from a neighboring school district. A student whose older sister had recently graduated from MIT and had connections on the scholarship committee. I never could prove Kelsey sent that letter, but I knew. The specific details mentioned the intimate knowledge of my application, the timing it all pointed to someone with inside access to my life. When I confronted her, she'd looked at me with wide, innocent eyes and said, "Why would I do something like that? I love you, Amber. You're my sister." But I saw the truth in the slight upturn of her lips, the satisfaction in her eyes. She'd destroyed my future to eliminate competition, and she'd gotten away with it. That betrayal changed everything. Instead of MIT, I went to state school. Instead of the connections and opportunities that scholarship would have provided, I had to build everything from scratch alone, fighting for every inch of progress. And yet somehow, I'd still succeeded. Despite her. Despite all of them. But they don't know that. They still see me as the failure, the disappointment, the sister who couldn't measure up. Kelsey leans back in her chair, swirling her wine, looking pleased with herself. Then she raises her glass and everyone follows suit, assuming she's about to offer another toast to herself. Instead, she looks directly at me, her smile razor sharp. "To those who are truly useful to society," she says, her voice clear and carrying. "May they continue to make the world a better place." The implication is crystal clear. She's useful. I'm not. And as glasses clink around the table as people drink to her toast without questioning its underlying cruelty, I feel something inside me shift and harden. They have no idea what's coming. I take a long sip of water, using the moment to compose myself. While conversation resumes around me, my mind drifts away from this dining room, away from Kelsey's smug satisfaction and my mother's willful blindness toward the world I've built in silence over the past 5 years. They think I have nothing. They have no idea. My platform, which I named Care Connect, started as a simple idea during my graduate work in health informatics. I kept noticing the same problem appearing in study after study. Elderly people in rural areas couldn't access specialized medical care. They'd skip appointments because transportation was difficult. They'd let symptoms worsen because getting to a doctor meant a 2-hour drive. They'd end up in emergency rooms with conditions that could have been managed if caught earlier. The technology existed to solve this problem: video conferencing, remote monitoring, digital coordination, but nobody was putting it together in a way that actually worked for elderly users. Every system I examined was designed by young tech developers who assumed everyone was comfortable with apps and interfaces and digital navigation. They'd never considered what it's like to be 78 years old with arthritis and presbyopia trying to figure out how to unmute yourself on a video call. So I built something different. Something with large buttons and simple language. Something that walked users through every step with voice guidance. Something that connected them not just to doctors but to transportation services, pharmacies, family members, and emergency responders, all in one integrated system. It took 2 years to develop the prototype, another year to pilot it with 300 volunteers across 5 states. Then the pandemic hit, and suddenly what I'd built went from interesting innovation to essential service. Elderly people were isolated, terrified, unable to risk exposure by going to medical appointments. My platform became a lifeline. We scaled fast. Within 18 months, we were serving over 50,000 patients across 32 states. Rural clinics partnered with us. Major hospital systems integrated our technology into their telemedicine programs. Insurance companies started covering it because we were preventing expensive emergency room visits and hospitalizations. Last month, we facilitated our 1,000,000th medical consultation. 1 million times an elderly person who might otherwise have suffered alone instead received care. 1 million conversations between patients and providers that wouldn't have happened without what I built. The letters started arriving about 6 months into our expansion. Handwritten notes on floral stationery emails with subject lines like, "Thank you for saving my life." Cards with photos of grandchildren tucked inside. They come from every corner of the country, from people my family will never meet telling stories my family will never hear. Dorothy from Montana wrote that she was having chest pains and lived 45 miles from the nearest hospital. She used Care Connect to video call a cardiologist who recognized the symptoms of an impending heart attack and dispatched emergency services immediately. The EMTs arrived in time. She survived. She's now seen her grandson graduate from high school, something she wouldn't have lived to witness without intervention. Robert from rural Mississippi needs dialysis 3 times a week. Before Care Connect, coordinating transportation, confirming appointments, and managing his complex medication schedule fell entirely on his daughter, who had to take off work constantly. Now the system handles it all, sending him reminders, arranging rides, alerting his daughter only when something needs her attention. He wrote to tell me his daughter cried with relief when she realized she could keep her job and still take care of him. Margaret from Kansas was diagnosed with breast cancer. She lives in a town of 800 people, 4 hours from the nearest oncology center. Through Care Connect, she video conferenced with specialists, had her chemotherapy administered locally under remote supervision, and monitored her recovery through devices that tracked her vitals and sent automatic alerts if anything looked concerning. She just celebrated 2 years cancer-free. She sent me a photo of herself with her 3 grandchildren, all holding signs that said, "Thank you, Amber." I keep these letters in a box under my bed. On nights when self-doubt creeps in, when I wonder if any of this matters, I read them. These stories, not my family's approval, are what keep me going. These people see my worth, even if the people who raised me never will. The irony isn't lost on me. I've spent my entire life trying to earn recognition from people who will never give it, while thousands of strangers across the country are grateful for my existence. Major publications have reached out repeatedly asking to profile me. TED wanted me to give a talk. Healthcare conferences invited me to keynote. The Surgeon General's office asked me to consult on elderly care policy. I declined everything. I didn't want the attention. I wanted the work to speak for itself. I wanted to know that what I built mattered because it helped people, not because it made me famous. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small, petty part of me that kept this secret specifically so I could see who my family really was. So I could confirm what I'd always suspected, that their love was conditional. Their pride reserved only for the daughter who performed the role they'd assigned her. And tonight has certainly confirmed that. Around me, conversation continues. Kelsey is describing her office politics in exhaustive detail. Uncle Mike is offering unsolicited career advice to cousin Jennifer. Mom is fretting about whether the pie will be warm enough for dessert. I'm only half listening, my attention caught by the television in the corner of the living room. It's been on all evening, volume low, mostly ignored except for the occasional glance. Right now, it's showing some pre-recorded holiday programming, but across the bottom of the screen runs a news ticker, special announcement tonight, major healthcare innovation recognition, stay tuned. Something tightens in my chest. I've been getting cryptic messages from my assistant all week. Press inquiries that seemed more urgent than usual. Requests for statements and interviews that carried a strange energy. When I asked what was happening, she said only that I should be prepared for some attention, and that there would be an announcement soon. I'd assumed it was another article or award, something I'd politely decline, as I always do. But that ticker on the screen feels different. The timing feels orchestrated in a way I can't quite explain. Like somewhere, somehow, the universe has been setting pieces in motion that are about to converge in this dining room on this night with these people who've spent decades making me feel worthless. I try to dismiss the thought as paranoid fantasy, but there's an electricity in the air I can't quite shake. A sense of something building, gathering momentum, approaching like a storm on the horizon. The TV screen suddenly shifts. The holiday programming cuts out, replaced by a breaking news banner. The room doesn't notice at first. Everyone's too absorbed in their own conversations, their own small dramas. But I notice. And as the banner flashes across the screen, everything else seems to fade away. The breaking news banner holds my attention for just a moment before Mom's voice cuts through, pulling me back to the table. She's responding to something Aunt Carol asked, something I missed while I was focused on the television. "Oh, Amber." Mom says, her voice carrying that particular tone she uses when she's about to diminish me in public while pretending it's not diminishment at all. "Well, she's temporarily unemployed right now." The words land in the middle of the table like a grenade. Conversation stops. Forks pause halfway to mouths. Someone's wine glass freezes mid-sip. The sudden silence is deafening, broken only by the distant sound of the television and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. I feel every eye turn toward me, not with curiosity or concern, but with pity. That awful, suffocating pity that makes you feel like you're drowning in other people's sympathy. Mom continues, filling the awkward silence, her words tumbling out in that way people do when they're trying to make something sound better than it is. She's just taking some time to figure out what she wants to do. You know how it is these days, the job market is so different than when we were young. Young people, they explore their options now. I'm 37, not exactly young, and I'm not exploring anything, but I say nothing. Just take another bite of mashed potatoes that suddenly taste like sawdust in my mouth. The pity intensifies. I can feel it radiating from every person at this table, wrapping around me like a wet blanket. Aunt Carol gives me a sympathetic smile that makes my skin crawl. Cousin Jennifer looks down at her plate, clearly uncomfortable. Uncle Mike clears his throat. "Well," he says, his voice booming with forced cheerfulness, "failure is a good teacher, isn't it? Some of the most successful people had to struggle first. He means well. I know he means well. That's what makes it so much worse. In fact, he continues warming to his subject. If you need some help getting back on your feet, Amber, I might be able to pull some strings. The sporting goods store downtown is looking for seasonal workers. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. And Jim, he's the manager, he owes me a favor. I could put in a good word for you. The offer hangs in the air. Uncle Mike looks pleased with himself, proud of his generosity. Around the table, people are nodding approvingly, as if he's just offered me a tremendous gift, rather than suggesting I'm so unemployable that I need connections to get a minimum wage retail position. That's really kind of you, Mike, I hear myself say, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. I'll keep that in mind. You should take him up on it, Mom adds quickly. Really, Amber, you can't just keep waiting for the perfect opportunity to fall into your lap. Sometimes you have to start somewhere, even if it's not what you imagined. As if I've been sitting idle waiting, doing nothing. As if I haven't built something extraordinary from the ground up through sheer determination and countless sleepless nights. As if my worth can be measured by their ability to understand what I do. The pity in their eyes is almost unbearable. It's worse than contempt, worse than anger, worse than indifference. They genuinely believe they're looking at a failure. A cautionary tale, the daughter who never quite figured it out. I feel the familiar shame creeping up my neck, hot and uncomfortable, even though I know that I have nothing to be ashamed of. But shame doesn't care about logic. It's been programmed into me through decades of moments exactly like this one, where my family's perception of my failure becomes more real than any actual success I might have achieved. My hands tremble slightly as I grip my napkin in my lap. I focus on keeping my face neutral, on not letting them see how deeply this cuts. I've had years of practice at this particular performance. Then Kelsey's voice cuts through the tension with the precision of a surgical knife. Oh, don't say temporarily, she says, laughing. Let's be honest here. She's been unemployed for years. This isn't a temporary situation. This is just who Amber is. She takes a sip of wine, her eyes glittering with satisfaction over the rim of her glass. Some people are meant for success and some people just aren't. It's not a judgment, it's just reality. There's a beat of horrified silence and then someone laughs, a nervous, uncomfortable chuckle. Then another person joins in and another until scattered laughter ripples around the table like a wave. They're treating Kelsey's cruelty as if it's amusing observation rather than calculated humiliation. Dad makes a weak attempt at intervention. Kelsey, that's not nice. But there's no real force behind his words, no actual expectation that she'll apologize or take it back. Just a mild suggestion that maybe she could be slightly less obvious about her contempt. Kelsey shrugs, unbothered. I'm just being honest. Someone has to be. The laughter dies down, but the damage is done. The judgment has been rendered, and nobody at this table is rushing to my defense. Nobody is questioning Kelsey's assessment. Nobody is suggesting that maybe, just maybe, they don't actually know anything about my life. They've decided who I am, and no amount of reality will change that narrative. I sit in the middle of this scene, this symphony of humiliation performed by my own family, and feel something inside me crystallize. All the pain, all the years of being diminished and dismissed and treated as lesser, all of it hardens into something cold and clear. My hands have stopped trembling. The shame is still there, but underneath it now is something else. Something that feels almost like satisfaction. Because they have no idea. They're all sitting here so smug, so certain, so completely wrong. I think about the email I received 3 weeks ago, the one with the White House letterhead, the one informing me that I've been selected to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom for revolutionizing healthcare access for America's elderly population, the one asking me to keep it confidential until tonight's official announcement. A small, cold smile touches my lips. I can't help it. Kelsey notices. What's that smile for finding humor in your own failure? I'm about to respond, I'm not sure what I would have said when Dad's voice suddenly explodes from the head of the table. "Oh my God!" He's staring at the television, his face gone pale. "Everyone look at the TV, now." Every head whips toward the living room where the television screen is now showing something that makes my heart start pounding. The breaking news isn't just breaking anymore. It's about to shatter everything. The White House seal fills the television screen, presidential and unmistakable. The news anchor's voice cuts through our dining room with crystal clarity, and suddenly, every sound in the house seems to stop. Even the grandfather clock seems to hold its breath. "We're interrupting our regular programming for a special announcement from the White House," the anchor says, her tone weighted with significance. "Tonight, we're honored to share this year's Presidential Medal of Freedom recipients, America's highest civilian honor." I watch my family scramble to process what they're hearing. Uncle Mike actually stands up to get a better view. Mom's hand flies to her chest. Kelsey's smirk falters, confusion creeping into her expression. The anchor continues. "This year's Medal of Freedom for Healthcare Innovation goes to the person who has fundamentally transformed how America cares for its elderly population, particularly those in underserved and rural communities." The screen changes. My interface appears, the one I designed with its large buttons and intuitive layout, the one that thousands of elderly Americans now use daily. The Care Connect logo fills the screen, and I can see people at the table leaning forward, squinting, trying to understand what they're looking at. "This groundbreaking platform," the anchor explains, "has facilitated over 1 million medical consultations, preventing countless emergency room visits, and saving an estimated 3,000 lives in rural America alone. It has been called the most significant advancement in elderly healthcare access in a generation." I see recognition beginning to dawn on a few faces. Aunt Carol's eyes widen. Dad's mouth opens slightly. But most of them still look confused, still trying to connect what they're seeing on screen to anything they know about their world. The anchor's voice drops into a more intimate register, the kind reserved for stories of genuine human impact. "Tonight, we honor the woman whose quiet innovation has given thousands of elderly Americans the gift of dignity, independence, and in many cases, life itself." Then my face appears on the screen. It's my official photo, the one I took last month when the White House insisted they needed professional images for the announcement. I'm wearing a navy suit, my hair pulled back, my expression serious but warm. Beneath the photo, my name appears in white letters: Amber Reynolds, founder and CEO, Care Connect Health Systems. "Amber Reynolds," the anchor says, and hearing my name from the television in my parents' living room feels surreal, like two universes colliding. A 37-year-old healthcare technology innovator from Ohio who saw a problem others ignored and spent 5 years building a solution that has revolutionized elderly care across America. The room plunges into absolute silence. It's the kind of silence that has weight, that presses down on everything, that makes the air feel thick and hard to breathe. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. For a moment, I wonder if time itself has stopped. Then slowly, every head in the room turns away from the television toward me. I sit perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap, my expression calm. I've had 3 weeks to prepare for this moment, 3 weeks to imagine exactly how it would feel. But nothing could have truly prepared me for the reality of watching my family's entire understanding of who I am shatter in real time. Uncle Mike's face has gone slack with shock. Aunt Carol's hand covers her mouth. Cousin Jennifer looks like she's trying to solve a complex math problem in her head, attempting to reconcile the woman on the television with the unemployed niece sitting at the table. Mom's face has gone completely white. Her wine glass trembles visibly in her hand, the red liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. She's staring at me like she's never seen me before, like I'm a stranger who somehow infiltrated her family dinner. Dad's eyes are wide, his face cycling through emotions too quickly for me to track. Shock, confusion, and something that might be pride or might be horror at what they've all just said to me in the minutes before this revelation. But it's Kelsey's face that holds my attention. All the smug satisfaction has drained away, leaving her pale and frozen. Her mouth is slightly open, her eyes darting between the television and me, as if checking repeatedly to make sure they're showing the same person. The sister she just mocked for being unemployed for years is being honored by the President of the United States. The television continues oblivious to the destruction it's causing in this dining room. Ms. Reynolds has been described by colleagues as brilliant, compassionate, and uncommonly dedicated to serving those who are often overlooked by our healthcare system. In a statement, the Surgeon General called her work not just innovative, but life-saving. Still, nobody in my family speaks. They're all looking at me now, really looking at me perhaps for the first time in decades. The woman they dismissed, the daughter, they pitied the sister, they mocked. And I'm none of those things. I never was. I could say something. I could break this silence, offer some explanation, make this easier for them somehow. But I don't. I sit in the weight of this moment and let them feel the full force of their own wrongness. Let them really understand how profoundly they've misjudged me. The pain of being humiliated just minutes ago is still fresh, still raw. Kelsey's laughter still rings in my ears. Uncle Mike's offer of retail work still stings. Mom's casual dismissal of my worth still burns. And now all of that pain collides with this moment of revelation, creating something they cannot swallow, cannot dismiss, cannot explain away. There's no spinning this, no reframing it, no way to pretend they knew all along, or that this is somehow less significant than it is. The Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in America. Given to me for work they didn't know existed, for accomplishments they never imagined I was capable of, for a life I built entirely outside their awareness, while they assumed I was failing. I meet Mom's eyes across the table. For 37 years, she's looked at me with a mixture of mild disappointment and benign neglect. But now, in this moment, I see something different. Something I've never seen before in all my years of being her daughter. Recognition. Real recognition. Not of the role she assigned me or the narrative she constructed, but of who I actually am. Her wine glass trembles harder. The red liquid sloshes over the rim, drops of it falling onto the white tablecloth like blood. On the television, they're showing footage of elderly patients using my platform testimonials from families whose lives were changed. An old man in Montana waves at the camera. A grandmother in Mississippi smiles while video calling her doctor. A widower in Kansas holds up a photo of his late wife and mouths, "Thank you." These are the people who know my worth, who see me clearly, who understand what I've built and why it matters. My family has never been part of that group, and in this moment, watching them struggle to comprehend the vast gap between who they thought I was and who I actually am, I feel something shift inside me. The wine glass slips from Mom's hand. It falls in slow motion, tumbling through the air, catching the light from the chandelier. Then it hits the hardwood floor and explodes into 1,000 glittering pieces, red wine splashing across the floor like punctuation at the end of a very long, very painful sentence. The crash echoes through the silent room, and still nobody speaks. The shattered glass glitters on the floor like scattered diamonds, and in the silence that follows, Mom's voice comes out as barely a whisper. "That can't be." She's shaking her head slowly, still staring at the television where my face remains on the screen alongside details about the medal ceremony scheduled for next month. That's not our Amber." The words hit me like a physical blow, somehow worse than all the insults that came before. Because this isn't just dismissal or diminishment. This is complete denial of my existence as a separate, capable person. She would literally rather believe the television is showing the wrong person than accept that her daughter, the one she's spent decades treating as an afterthought, could accomplish something this extraordinary. "Linda," Dad says quietly, but Mom isn't listening. "There must be some mistake." She continues, her voice gaining strength as she grasps onto this theory. "Maybe it's someone with the same name, or maybe they've got the wrong photo. Things like this happen all the time. Technical errors." "Mom." The word comes out harder than I intended. It's me. She looks at me, then really looks at me, and I can see her mind working frantically to reconcile the daughter she thought she knew with the woman on the television screen. The cognitive dissonance is written across every feature of her face. Her eyebrows draw together. Her mouth opens and closes. Her hands flutter uselessly in the air. "But you don't even have a job," she says finally, and the statement is so absurd given what we've all just witnessed that it would be funny if it weren't so deeply, profoundly sad. "I have a job, Mom. I've had one for 5 years. I built a company, from nothing, while you all assumed I was failing." The television is still talking now, showing statistics about how many lives CareConnect has impacted, how many rural communities now have access to specialized care they never had before. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable, right there in front of all of them. But Mom is still shaking her head, still resisting, still clinging to the version of me she's constructed in her mind, because accepting the truth would mean acknowledging how wrong she's been, how blind, how utterly she's failed to see her own daughter. Kelsey suddenly lurches to her feet, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Her face has gone from pale to flushed, a deep crimson spreading up her neck and across her cheeks. She points at the television with a trembling finger. "No," she says, her voice too loud, too sharp. "No, this is... She must be a representative or something. A spokesperson. They probably just put her face on it because she works there in some capacity, but she can't be the founder. That's not possible." I watch her scramble, watch her try to find some explanation that preserves the hierarchy we've all lived under for so long. The hierarchy where she's the successful one, the golden child, the daughter worth celebrating. Where I'm the shadow, the helper, the one who exists to make everyone else's lives easier. "Kelsey," Aunt Carol says gently, but Kelsey whirls on her. "You don't understand. She can't be. She doesn't." Her voice is rising with each word climbing toward hysteria. "My sister doesn't do things like this. She's not the type of person who wins presidential awards. She's just Amber. Just Amber. As if my name itself is synonymous with mediocrity." "Maybe we should all calm down and..." Uncle Mike starts, but Kelsey cuts him off. "I just got promoted." Her voice cracks on the last word. "I worked so hard and everyone was celebrating, and now suddenly she's..." She gestures wildly at the television, unable to even finish the sentence. "This doesn't make sense. The successful sister is supposed to be me. That's how it's always been." The raw honesty of it stuns everyone into silence. She said out loud what everyone was thinking, made explicit the unspoken family dynamics that have governed our entire lives. The room shifts uncomfortably, relatives looking away, embarrassed by the naked jealousy and panic in her voice. But I understand something in this moment that I've never fully grasped before. Kelsey isn't just cruel. She's terrified. Terrified of losing the only identity she's ever had, the only role that gave her value in this family. If I'm not the failure, then who is she? If I can succeed without their approval or support, what does that say about her carefully cultivated image of superiority? "The announcement is real, Kelsey," I say quietly. "I built CareConnect. I run it. And yes, I'm receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom next month." She stares at me, her chest heaving, tears gathering in her eyes. For a moment, I think she might say something, apologize or congratulate me or acknowledge the years of cruelty. But she just stands there frozen as everything she thought she knew crumbles around her. Dad has been silent through all of this, but now he moves. He stands slowly, his chair scraping back, and walks around the table toward me. His hands are trembling as he reaches out, placing them on my shoulders with a gentleness I haven't felt from him in years. I look up at him and see tears in his eyes. Real tears. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. He's trying to find words for something that has no words. How do you apologize for decades of not seeing someone? How do you express remorse for treating your own daughter like she was invisible? "Amber," he says, his voice rough. I didn't. We didn't. His hands tighten on my shoulders, and I can feel him gathering himself, preparing to say something important, something that might actually matter. Around us, the family has gone quiet, watching this moment unfold. Even Kelsey has stopped her desperate denials, standing frozen beside her chair. Dad takes a breath, his eyes locked on mine, and I can see him wrestling with every instance of dismissal, every time he stood by while Mom diminished me, every moment he chose peace over protecting his daughter. He begins. And then the knocking starts. It's not a polite knock, not a friendly neighbor dropping by. It's authoritative, commanding, the kind of knock that demands attention. 3 sharp raps that echo through the house like gunshots, cutting through the tension in the dining room and replacing it with something else entirely. Everyone freezes. Dad's hands slip from my shoulders. All heads turn toward the front door. The knocking comes again, more insistent this time. Loud enough that it's clear whoever is out there isn't going away. "Who on earth?" Mom starts, but her voice trails off. "I already know. I've been expecting this, actually. The White House gave me a heads up that there might be media interest immediately following the announcement. They offered to send someone to help manage it, but I declined, thinking I'd have time to get home to my own apartment first. I didn't account for being at my parents' house. Didn't think about how the press would track me here." The knocking comes a 3rd time, and now I can hear voices outside. Multiple voices. The sound of equipment being moved around. Someone's phone ringing. Dad walks to the window and pulls back the curtain. His face goes even paler than it was before. "Linda," he says, his voice strangled. "There are news vans in our driveway. Multiple news vans. And cameras. And people. So many people." The reality of what's happening finally seems to penetrate Mom's denial. She looks at me, then at the television still displaying information about my award, then toward the front door where the knocking has become nearly constant. "Amber," she whispers, "what have you done?" And despite everything, despite the pain and the years of dismissal and the humiliation I just endured, I almost laugh. Because even now, even with undeniable proof of my success displayed on national television, she's framing this as something I've done wrong. The knocking intensifies, and a voice calls out, clear and professional. "Ms. Reynolds." "This is Channel 7 News. We'd love to speak with you about your incredible achievement." Dad opens the door to reveal not just the news crew, but what looks like half the neighborhood gathered on our front lawn. Camera lights illuminate the early evening darkness, turning our quiet suburban street into something resembling a movie premiere. 2 journalists stand directly at the threshold, professionally dressed, microphones in hand, their faces bright with barely contained excitement. "Ms. Reynolds?" the woman in front says, extending her hand. "I'm Sarah Chen from Channel 7 News, and this is my colleague Marcus Williams. We've been trying to reach you all afternoon. We're hoping you might spare a few minutes for an interview about your extraordinary achievement." Behind me, I hear someone gasp. Probably Mom, still trying to process that this is actually happening, that the failure daughter she was pitying 20 minutes ago is now being pursued by television journalists. "The entire nation is talking about you tonight," Marcus adds, his voice warm with genuine admiration. "Your story is trending on every social media platform. People want to know about the woman who's been quietly changing lives while asking for nothing in return." The reverence in their voices is something I've never heard from my family. These strangers treat me with more respect in 30 seconds than my own mother has shown in 37 years. The contrast is so stark it's almost painful. I appreciate that I say finding my professional voice, the one I use in board meetings and investor calls, but I'm actually in the middle of a family dinner. Perhaps we could arrange something for tomorrow. "Of course, absolutely," Sarah says immediately, but she's already pulling out her card. "We understand completely. Though I should mention you're the lead story on every network tonight. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all of them. The White House announcement has captured the nation's attention in a way we haven't seen in years." I take her card, acutely aware of my family crowded behind me in the hallway, listening to every word. I can feel their confusion radiating like heat. Marcus leans in slightly. People are calling you a hero, Ms. Reynolds, especially elderly Americans and their families. The response has been overwhelming. Movement outside catches my attention. More people are arriving, not just journalists, but neighbors. I recognize Mrs. Patterson from 3 houses down the Johnsons from across the street. Old Mr. Chen, who's lived at the end of the block for 40 years. They're gathering on the lawn, many of them holding cell phones up, trying to get photos or video. "Amber!" a voice calls from the crowd, wavering and elderly. "Is that you, sweetheart?" An old woman pushes through the journalists, and I recognize her immediately, even though I haven't seen her in years. Mrs. Wilson, Mom's longtime friend and neighbor. She must be nearly 80 now, her face deeply lined. Her movements slow but determined. "Mrs. Wilson," I say, stepping out onto the porch. "How are you?" She reaches me and grabs both my hands, her grip surprisingly strong. Her eyes are bright with tears. "I didn't know," she says, her voice breaking. "All this time I didn't know it was you." "Didn't know what? That you created Care Connect?" She's crying openly now. "Last spring I had some chest pains. George was already gone. Kids live out of state and I was alone. I used that app, your app, and within minutes I was talking to a cardiologist. He saw something on the scan, something the emergency room had missed 6 months earlier, early-stage cancer." She reaches up and touches my face, the gesture so maternal it makes my throat tight. "They caught it because of you, because of what you built. I've been cancer-free for 5 months now. I got to see my grandson graduate from college last week." Tears stream down her weathered cheeks. "You gave me 2 more years of life, maybe more. You gave me time with my grandchildren. How do I even thank you for that?" The crowd has gone quiet, listening. I can hear cameras clicking, see phone lights recording. But all I can focus on is this woman's face, the genuine gratitude shining through her tears. "I'm just glad you're okay, Mrs. Wilson," I manage to say, my own voice unsteady. Behind me, I hear Mom make a small, choked sound. I glance back and see her standing in the doorway watching this exchange, her face a mask of confusion, and something that might be dawning realization. Mrs. Wilson is her friend. They've had coffee together every Thursday for 20 years, and she's just learning that Amber, invisible, unemployed Amber, saved her friend's life. The neighbors are murmuring now, pressing closer, pulling out their phones. "Can I get a photo?" someone asks. "My mother uses your platform," another voice calls. "You're amazing," someone else shouts. "The journalists are taking it all in, cameras rolling, capturing everything. This isn't just a story anymore, it's a moment." I'm trying to graciously accept the attention to thank people for their kind words when I hear Kelsey's voice cut through the noise. "Excuse me," she says, pushing past Mom to stand beside me on the porch. "I'm Amber's sister, Kelsey Reynolds. I can speak to the press about her work. We've always been very close, and I've supported her throughout this entire journey." The lie is so blatant, so shameless, that for a moment I can't even process it. She was mocking me 15 minutes ago. Now she's claiming credit for supporting me. Sarah Chen turns to Kelsey with polite confusion. "That's wonderful, but we're really hoping to speak with Ms. Reynolds herself. Her personal perspective is what our viewers want to hear." "Yes, but as her sister, I can provide insight into—" Kelsey tries again, her voice rising slightly. "We appreciate that." Marcus interrupts, his tone professional but firm. "But Ms. Reynolds is the story here. Perhaps another time." He's already turned back to me, effectively dismissing Kelsey. It's polite, professional, but absolutely clear. They have no interest in her. She's not relevant to this story. I watch Kelsey's face as she processes this public dismissal. This is what I've experienced my entire life, being overlooked, being deemed unimportant, being treated as if my presence doesn't matter. But she's never felt it before. She's always been the center of attention, the one everyone wants to hear from. She steps back, her face flushing deep red, and I see something crumble in her expression. For the first time, she's experiencing what it feels like to be invisible. Ms. Reynolds, Sarah is saying, would you at least consider a brief statement for our viewers? Just a few words about what this honor means to you. My phone vibrates insistently in my pocket. I pull it out and see my assistant's name flashing on the screen. She's calling, not texting, which means something important is happening. I'm sorry. I say to the journalists, I need to take this call. If you leave your information, my assistant will coordinate something for tomorrow. I step back into the house, putting the phone to my ear as I close the door on the chaos outside. My family is clustered in the hallway, all of them staring at me like I've transformed into someone they don't recognize. Julia, I say into the phone, what's going on? Amber. Her voice is tight with urgency. You need to hear this immediately. The response to the announcement has been massive beyond anything we anticipated. But there's something else. Something you need to know about right now. Through the window, I can see more cars pulling up, more people gathering. The quiet Thanksgiving evening has turned into something else entirely. What is it? I ask. Behind me, my family waits in silence, and for once, they're the ones who are invisible. I slip through the kitchen and out the back door, desperate for air and space away from the chaos erupting in the front of the house. The November cold hits my face, sharp and clarifying. I can still hear the commotion from the street, voices, car doors, the mechanical whir of camera equipment, but back here in the darkness of the yard, I can finally breathe. Julia, I say into the phone, leaning against the porch railing. Talk to me. Okay, so first, congratulations are flooding in from everywhere. Her voice is rushed, excited the way it gets when she's trying to process too much information at once. Our contact form crashed twice. The server hosting our email is buckling under the volume. I've counted messages from 3 governors the Surgeon General's office called directly, and Senator Martinez from the Healthcare Committee sent a handwritten letter by courier asking if you'd consider testifying before Congress about expanding rural healthcare access. I close my eyes, letting this sink in. Senator Martinez chairs one of the most powerful committees in Washington. A month ago, getting her attention would have been a strategic goal. Now she's reaching out to me. That's not all, Julia continues. CNN wants you for their morning show. Good Morning America called. The Today Show. 60 Minutes wants to do a full profile. The New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal all requesting interviews. And that's just the media. We're getting partnership proposals from major hospital systems, investment inquiries from venture capital firms, and about 50 different healthcare organizations want you to keynote their conferences. The scale of it is dizzying. I knew the medal would bring attention, but this is beyond anything I'd anticipated. This isn't just recognition, this is a complete shift in the landscape of my professional life. There's also been a massive surge in platform signups, Julia adds. We've had over 10,000 new patient registrations in the last 2 hours. Rural clinics are reaching out wanting to partner with us. This is going to change everything, Amber. I should feel triumphant. This is validation beyond my wildest dreams. Confirmation that the work I've poured my life into matters on a national scale. But instead, I feel a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. What else? I ask because I can hear the hesitation in Julia's voice. There's a pause. Your family is being interviewed, like right now. I'm watching a live stream from one of the news stations at your parents' house. My stomach drops. What are they saying? Your mother is talking about how proud she's always been of you, how she knew from the time you were young that you were special, that you'd do great things. She's telling this whole story about encouraging you to pursue your dreams, about how the family has always supported your ambitions. The audacity of it steals my breath. 20 minutes ago, she was explaining to relatives that I was temporarily unemployed. Now she's claiming she's been my champion all along. Your sister is there too, Julia continues. She's talking about growing up with you, saying she's always admired your dedication and vision. She's calling herself your biggest supporter and saying the family has been integral to your success. I laugh, but there's no humor in it, just a sharp, bitter sound that cuts through the cold air. They're rewriting history, I say flatly. In real time, Julia confirms. And people are buying it. The comments are full of people saying how nice it is that you have such a supportive family, how important family is to success, asking your mother for parenting advice. Your sister has gained 3,000 Instagram followers in the last hour. Of course she has. Kelsey has always been good at capitalizing on opportunities, at positioning herself in the spotlight. The difference is that usually she's leveraging her own achievements, fabricated though they may be. Now she's leveraging mine. There's more, Julia says, her voice dropping. Reporters are asking your family for childhood photos, stories about your upbringing, quotes about your character. Your mother mentioned she has boxes of memories she'd be happy to share. One journalist asked if your family would be willing to appear on a daytime talk show to discuss raising a presidential medal recipient. The parasites are already attaching themselves, I think. Already figuring out how to monetize their relationship to me. My success is becoming their commodity. What do you want me to do? Julia asks. I can issue a statement, set some boundaries, make it clear that... No, I interrupt. Not yet. Let them talk. Let them show everyone exactly who they are. There's a pause. Julia knows me well enough to hear the cold calculation in my voice. Amber, are you sure if we let this narrative build, it'll be harder to correct later? I'm sure. Just document everything. Keep recordings of what they're saying. We might need it. Okay, she says slowly. But be careful. I've seen this before. When someone suddenly becomes visible, everyone around them wants a piece. Family can be the worst because they feel entitled. As if summoning her words into reality, my phone buzzes with an incoming text. I glance at the screen and see a message from someone I don't have saved in my contacts, but I recognize the number. It's from an entrepreneur I met at a healthcare conference 2 years ago. Someone who's built multiple successful companies and knows exactly how these situations unfold. The message is short. Congratulations, but be careful. When light shines on you, shadows also become visible. Protect yourself. The warning settles cold and heavy in my stomach. I've spent 5 years building Care Connect with integrity, with careful attention to every detail, every regulation, every ethical consideration. My company's finances are transparent. My partnerships are legitimate. There's nothing in my professional life that wouldn't withstand scrutiny. But my family, they're messy, impulsive, desperate, and now apparently willing to lie on national television about their role in my life. What else might they do? What other ways might they try to exploit this situation? I'm still processing this thought when another text comes through. This one is from Kelsey. Sis, we need to talk. Now. The audacity is almost impressive. She spent dinner mocking me, calling me unemployed for years, laughing at my supposed failure. Now, less than an hour after discovering the truth, she wants to talk. She wants something. They all want something. I stare at the message, my finger hovering over the screen. Every instinct I have, the instinct that's been trained into me over 37 years of being the accommodating daughter, the helpful sister, the one who puts everyone else's needs first, tells me to respond, to be available, to make this easy for her. But I've spent tonight being humiliated by these people. I've watched them pity me, dismiss me, laugh at my presumed failures. I've heard my mother tell relatives I'm unemployed. I've heard my sister call me useless to society. And now they want to talk. Now they need me. Julia's voice comes through the phone, patient. Amber, you still there? Yeah, I say. I'm here. What do you want to do about the interviews? We need to give the networks an answer. Through the back window of the house, I can see movement. Shadows passing back and forth. My family probably planning their next move, figuring out how to position themselves in this new reality where the daughter they dismissed is suddenly the most important person in the room. Schedule them, I tell Julia. All of them. But on my terms, my timeline. And, Julia, make sure every interview happens away from my family. I speak for myself. Got it, she says, and I can hear the approval in her voice. Anything else? My phone buzzes again. Another message from Kelsey, more insistent this time. Please, I'm serious. We really need to talk. I look at those words at the barely concealed desperation in them, and something cold and clear crystallizes inside me. Yeah, I tell Julia. One more thing. Whatever my family says in these interviews tonight, I want transcripts of all of it. Every word. Consider it done. I end the call and stand in the darkness of the backyard, my phone glowing in my hand, Kelsey's messages waiting for a response I'm not ready to give. Inside the house, through the windows, I can see my family moving around, animated, energized in a way they never were when they thought I was nobody. My phone buzzes one more time. Amber, please. I stand in the cold darkness for another moment, watching my breath fog in the November air before I finally turn and walk back inside. The house feels different now, charged with a new energy that has nothing to do with family warmth and everything to do with opportunity and calculation. Kelsey is waiting just inside the kitchen door, her arms wrapped around herself, her earlier confidence stripped away to reveal something more vulnerable underneath. When she sees me, relief flashes across her face, quickly followed by something that might be shame. Can we go somewhere private? She asks, her voice, low eyes darting toward the living room, where I can hear Mom's voice rising and falling, still talking to someone, probably more journalists or neighbors, hungry for details about the newly famous daughter. I don't say anything, just walk past her onto the side porch, a small enclosed space that's always been too cold to use this time of year. She follows, closing the door behind us. The sudden quiet is almost jarring after the chaos of the last hour. Kelsey starts talking immediately, the words tumbling out like she's rehearsed them but can't quite control their delivery. I'm sorry. I am. For what I said at dinner, for how I've treated you, for everything. I cross my arms and lean against the porch railing, saying nothing. I've heard Kelsey's apologies before. They always come with conditions. She notices my silence and rushes to fill it. I know that probably sounds hollow right now, and I get that, but you have to understand your life has changed now. Everything is different for you. And I'm happy for you, I really am, but... She pauses, and here it comes, the real reason for this conversation. I need a chance too. There it is. Not even 5 minutes into her apology, and we've already arrived at what she wants from me. The apology wasn't about remorse or healing or acknowledging the years of cruelty. It was a preamble, a way to soften me up before making her request. I've seen variations of this my entire life. The sudden kindness before asking for a favor. The brief acknowledgement of wrongdoing followed immediately by an explanation of why actually she's the real victim here. The performance of regret that somehow always ends with me being asked to give something. What kind of chance? I ask, my voice flat. She exhales, relief evident that I'm at least engaging. I'm drowning, Amber. My job, the promotion I mentioned. It came with a pay cut. They restructured the whole department and I took the new title because I thought it would look good on my resume, but I'm making less money than before and my rent just went up and I have credit card debt from... She stops, swallowing hard. I'm $20,000 in debt. Maybe more. I stopped opening the statements. I watch her face as she talks, seeing the genuine distress there beneath the manipulation. And despite everything, despite the years of cruelty and the humiliation I endured just an hour ago, I feel something soften slightly. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever, but a recognition that Kelsey is also a product of the same dysfunctional family that shaped me. Mom calls me every week. Kelsey continues, her voice dropping. She asks about my job, my life, my achievements, but it's never enough. Every conversation somehow circles back to how I need to do better, be better, achieve more. She tells me about her friends' daughters who make more money, have better titles, married successful men. She's never satisfied with anything I do. Her voice cracks on the last word, and I see tears gathering in her eyes. Real tears, not the performative kind she's used before to get what she wants. The golden child role came with a cage, too, I say quietly, and she looks up at me, startled that I understand. Yes, she whispers. I've spent my whole life trying to live up to being the favorite, and I'm failing at that too. At least when you were the disappointment, I was the success. Now she gestures helplessly. You've actually succeeded, really succeeded, and I'm still just pretending. For the first time, I see my sister clearly, not as the villain of my story, but as another casualty of our mother's inability to love either of us properly. She got favor instead of love, attention instead of acceptance, and that hollow victory has left her just as damaged as my neglect left me. But understanding her pain doesn't erase mine. So you want money, I state. I want a chance, she corrects, but we both know it means the same thing. Maybe I could work for your company, or you could connect me with Kelsey. She stops hearing something in my tone. Tonight at dinner, you called me unemployed. You laughed about my failure. You toasted to people who are useful to society while looking directly at me. That was 45 minutes ago. She flinches. I know. I was awful. But I didn't know. And that makes it better. That you only treated me like garbage because you thought I couldn't fight back, because you believed I was actually failing. No, she says quickly. No, that's not. She stops, seeming to realize there's no good answer to that question. I let the silence stretch between us, cold and uncomfortable. Finally, she speaks again, her voice barely above a whisper. Mom and Dad are deeply in debt too. Did you know that? Something in my chest tightens. How much? I don't know exactly, but it's bad. Really bad. Dad's been taking money from his retirement account. They refinanced the house twice. There's a home equity loan. I think they might lose this place. She looks at me directly. They're planning to ask you to pay everything. They're just waiting for you to calm down first for the initial shock to wear off. They think if they give you a few days, you'll be in a better mood to help. The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. The way Mom barely reacted to my arrival. The strange energy in the house, even before the announcement. They knew this was coming. The White House must have contacted them for background information, must have told them about the medal weeks ago. They've had time to process, time to plan. This whole dinner wasn't about family gathering for Thanksgiving. It was a setup. They needed me here in person when the announcement went public. Easier to ask for money face-to-face than over the phone. Easier to manipulate through guilt and family obligation when I'm sitting at their table. How long have they known, I ask, about the medal? Mom got a call 3 weeks ago. She made me promise not to tell you. 3 weeks. They've known for 3 weeks that I was about to receive one of the nation's highest honors, and they said nothing. Did nothing. Just waited for the public announcement so they could position themselves to benefit. The betrayal cuts deeper than I expected. Some part of me, despite everything, still hoped that when they finally learned the truth about my success, there would be genuine pride, genuine recognition. Instead, their first thought was how to exploit it. They told reporters tonight that they've always supported you, Kelsey adds. Mom's telling this whole story about encouraging your dreams. It's all lies, Amber. You know it, I know it, but they're selling it, and people are believing it. I think about the transcripts Julia is collecting, the documentation of every false claim they're making. Evidence I might need later. Kelsey shifts her weight, wrapping her arms tighter around herself against the cold. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know I've been horrible. But I'm telling you this because... She pauses, and when she speaks again, her voice is shaking. Because you should know what you're walking into. They're going to come at you hard. Mom's already planning the conversation, practicing what she'll say. Why are you telling me this? She looks at me, and for once there's no performance in her expression. Just exhaustion. Because I'm tired, Amber. I'm so tired of being part of this family's games. And because you deserve to know the truth, even if I've never given you that before. We stand in silence for a moment, our breath fogging in the frigid air. From inside the house, I can hear Mom's laughter, bright and false, performing for whatever audience she's captured now. Kelsey looks down at her feet, and when she speaks again, her voice drops to barely a whisper. And there's something else. Something bigger than the debt. Bigger than tonight. Mom hid a very big secret from you. Something that happened a long time ago. Every nerve in my body goes on alert. What secret? She lifts her eyes to meet mine, and I see genuine fear there. The MIT scholarship. The one you lost when you were 18. She swallows hard. It wasn't just me who destroyed that opportunity. It was Mom. She was behind all of it. The MIT scholarship. The words hit me like a physical blow, and suddenly I'm 18 again, sitting in my childhood bedroom with that letter in my hands, trying to understand how everything I'd worked for had just vanished. What do you mean Mom was behind it? My voice comes out harder than I intended, sharp with a pain I thought I'd buried years ago. Kelsey looks at me with something that might be pity or might be relief at finally unburdening herself of this secret. The scholarship you lost, you didn't lose it, Amber. You turned it down. Mom convinced you to. That's not what happened, I say automatically, but even as the words leave my mouth, memories are surfacing, puzzle pieces I've kept in separate boxes, suddenly trying to fit themselves together. I was disqualified. There were accusations that I'd cheated, that my essay was plagiarized. Before that, Kelsey interrupts, before any of that happened, think back. What happened first? And suddenly, I'm remembering. The conversation in the kitchen on a Saturday morning in March. Mom sitting at the table with coffee, her face serious, her voice gentle but urgent. The way she reached across and took my hand, her eyes filling with tears as she told me about Dad's diagnosis. She told me Dad had cancer. I whisper the memory crystallizing with horrible clarity. She said he needed treatment, that it was expensive, that the family couldn't afford for me to be so far away. She said they needed me here, needed my help with Kelsey, with the house, with everything. She cried. I'd never seen her cry like that before. Kelsey nods, her face pale in the dim porch light. Dad didn't have cancer. He never did. She made it up, Amber. She fabricated the entire story because she didn't want you to go to MIT. The truth crashes over me like ice water, stealing my breath, making the world tilt sideways. I grip the porch railing, needing something solid to hold on to, as everything I thought I understood about that time rearranges itself into a new, sickening pattern. I called MIT myself. I continue, the memory flowing now like blood from a reopened wound. I told them I needed to decline the scholarship for family medical reasons. They were so kind about it. They said they understood that family comes first, that they hoped everything would work out. My voice breaks. I gave it up voluntarily. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a good daughter. I know, Kelsey says softly. I was 14. I watched it happen. I saw how she manipulated you, how she played on your sense of responsibility. And then after you'd already turned it down, after it was too late, that's when the accusations started surfacing. The cheating allegations, the plagiarism claims. Mom made sure of that too, just to cement your rejection, to make sure there was no way back. Why? The question comes out as barely more than a whisper. Why would she do that? Because she was terrified of you succeeding, Kelsey says, and there's no satisfaction in her voice, only sadness. She knew if you went to MIT, you'd become someone she couldn't control, someone who might surpass her, overshadow her. She needed you, small needed you manageable, and she needed me to be the successful one because that was something she could take credit for, could bask in. Your success would have been yours alone. She couldn't allow that. I'm shaking now, trembling with rage and grief and a sense of betrayal so profound it feels like it might crack me open. All these years I blamed myself for not fighting harder against the accusations. I blamed bad luck, bad timing, maybe even Kelsey for the sabotage. But I never suspected Mom, never imagined that my own mother would actively, deliberately destroy my future. After you stayed home after you enrolled at state school instead, do you remember how she acted? Kelsey continues. Like she'd won something. Like she'd successfully protected the family from some terrible threat. But the threat wasn't MIT or your education, it was your independence. Memories cascade through my mind now, each one taking on new significance under this darker understanding. The way Mom discouraged me from applying for internships in other cities. How she'd find reasons I needed to stay close to home. The time I got offered a research position that would have required relocation, and she'd cried about how much she'd miss me, how Kelsey still needed me around. I'd turned it down believing I was choosing family over ambition. But I wasn't choosing. I was being manipulated. It wasn't just the scholarship, I say slowly, realization dawning. There were other things, other opportunities that mysteriously fell through or that I talked myself out of because family needed me here. Kelsey nods. The research position, the fellowship in Boston, that job offer from the healthcare company in California. Every time something could have taken you away, suddenly there was a family crisis. Suddenly you were needed at home. I think about the years I spent commuting to state school while living at home to help out. The way I always felt guilty for wanting more, for dreaming bigger. How I'd been trained from birth to put everyone else first, to sacrifice my own needs for the family's comfort. It wasn't just neglect or favoritism. It was systematic, intentional, calculated. She did more than you know. Kelsey adds, her voice dropping. More than I know, probably. I only found out about some of this because I overheard phone conversations, found letters she'd hidden. There might be other things, Amber. Other moments in your life where doors closed and you thought it was bad luck or your own failure, but it was her. You should be careful. You should ask yourself what else she might have done. The implications stretch backward through my entire life like cracks spreading through glass. How many crucial moments were influenced by Mom's invisible hand? How many times did I fail to achieve something, not because I wasn't good enough, but because she made sure I couldn't succeed? The weight of it is crushing. I built Care Connect despite her, but how much further could I have gone without her sabotage? What kind of person might I have become if I'd been allowed to grow without someone actively pruning back my potential? Why are you telling me this now? I ask Kelsey. She meets my eyes and I see genuine remorse there. Because you're about to walk back into that house and face them, and you deserve to know who you're dealing with. Because I've been complicit in her games for too long and I'm done. And because... Her voice cracks. Because you deserved better, Amber. You always deserved so much better than what this family gave you. The back door opens suddenly and Dad steps out onto the porch. His face is grave, his expression unreadable in the shadows. He looks between Kelsey and me, clearly sensing the tension, the weight of whatever conversation he's just interrupted. Amber, he says, his voice carefully neutral. Your mother wants to talk to you. We need to have a family discussion. In the living room. Now. The word now carries weight expectation. The same tone he's used my entire life when the family needed something from me, when my own needs were about to be subordinated to everyone else's comfort. But I'm not the same person I was an hour ago. I'm not the same person I was 18 years ago when I gave up MIT because I believed my father was dying. Kelsey and I exchange a look and I see understanding pass between us. Whatever is about to happen in that living room, whatever Mom has planned, I'm walking in with my eyes open. I'll be right there. I tell Dad, my voice steady, despite the storm raging inside me. He nods and goes back inside, leaving Kelsey and me alone in the cold again. Be careful, she whispers one more time. I take a deep breath, feeling something harden inside me, something that's been soft and vulnerable for far too long. Then I walk toward the door, toward whatever confrontation awaits, carrying the weight of newly understood betrayals and the cold, clear certainty that nothing will ever be the same again. I follow Dad into the living room, acutely aware of Kelsey trailing behind me. The chaos from earlier has subsided, the journalists have been politely ushered away with promises of future interviews, the neighbors sent home with apologies about family time. Now it's just us, the four of us in the room, where I've spent countless holidays pretending everything was fine. Mom is sitting on the couch, her hands folded in her lap in a posture of composed concern. She's changed her blouse. The one with wine stains is gone, replaced by something more camera-ready. Of course. She's been performing for strangers all evening. Now it's time for the family performance. "Amber, sweetheart, sit down," she says, patting the cushion beside her. I choose the armchair across from her instead. Small rebellion, but it feels significant. Kelsey hovers near the doorway, and Dad takes his usual spot in his recliner, but he's not reclining. He's sitting forward, elbows on his knees, his face serious. "First," Mom begins, and I can hear the practiced quality in her tone. "We want you to know how incredibly proud we are of you. What you've accomplished is just extraordinary, truly extraordinary." The words are right, but they land hollow. She's reading from a script she's prepared, hitting emotional beats she thinks will land. But I've just learned she fabricated a cancer diagnosis to manipulate me. These words mean nothing. "We've always known you were capable of great things," she continues, and the audacity of this lie is almost impressive. "From the time you were small, we could see you had something special. That's why we pushed you so hard, why we had such high expectations. We knew you could handle it." She's rewriting history in real time, transforming neglect into tough love, dismissal into high standards, sabotage into some form of character building. The narrative is clever. It positions everything she did as actually supportive, as if she was preparing me for greatness all along. "Raising you wasn't easy," she adds, and here comes the guilt. "We made sacrifices, so many sacrifices. Your father worked double shifts for years. I gave up my own career aspirations to be home with you girls. We did everything we could to give you opportunities." I watch her perform, and for the first time in my life, I see it clearly for what it is. Performance, manipulation. A woman desperate to reframe her failures as some kind of noble suffering. Dad clears his throat, taking over. "But we need to be honest with you, Amber. We're in a difficult situation financially." Here it comes. The real reason for this family meeting. He pulls out a folder prepared in advance, I notice, and begins laying out papers on the coffee table. Bank statements, loan documents, medical bills. The evidence of financial catastrophe spread out like cards in a game I didn't know we were playing. "We've made some poor investment choices over the years." He admits, his voice heavy with carefully calibrated regret. "The market crash hit us hard. Then there were unexpected medical expenses." "What medical expenses?" I interrupt. "I thought Dad's cancer was fake." Mom's face tightens almost imperceptibly, but she recovers quickly. "That was years ago, Amber. This is different. Your father had a heart procedure last year, and the insurance didn't cover everything." I make a mental note to verify that claim later. Dad continues, pushing a particular document toward me. "This is the most pressing issue. This loan here, it's in default. We took it out 5 years ago when we needed to refinance the house, and we..." He hesitates, and I see something that looks like genuine shame cross his face. "We used your information as a co-signer." The words don't immediately make sense. "What do you mean you used my information?" "We needed a co-signer to qualify for the amount we needed." Mom interjects, her voice taking on a defensive edge. "And we knew you'd want to help the family, so we handled the paperwork ourselves. We were going to tell you eventually." "You committed identity theft," I say flatly. "You forged my signature on a loan document." "Don't be dramatic," Mom snaps, then catches herself, softening her tone. "We're family. It's not theft when it's family. We were desperate, Amber. Surely you can understand that." The violation is visceral, hitting me in the gut. They didn't just dismiss me emotionally, didn't just sabotage my education and career opportunities. They literally used my identity for their own financial benefit without my knowledge or consent. I could be legally liable for debt. I never agreed to debt that could have destroyed my credit, could have jeopardized everything I've built. How much? I ask. Dad doesn't meet my eyes. $47,000. Plus interest and late fees, we're looking at closer to 60. The number hangs in the air. It's not an impossible amount. I could write that check today and barely notice the dent in CareConnect's accounts. But that's not the point. The point is, they took it without asking, committed fraud using my identity, and now they're explaining it away as if it's something I should just understand and forgive. There are other debts too. Dad continues flipping through papers. Credit cards, a second mortgage, some personal loans. Altogether, we're looking at roughly $200,000. $200,000 in debt accumulated through bad decisions and reckless spending, and now they want me to fix it. Mom leans forward, her eyes glistening with tears that might be real or might be another performance. We know this is a lot to ask, especially tonight of all nights. But you're receiving this incredible honor. You've built this successful company, and we're so happy for you. We are. But we're also your family, Amber. We raised you. We're in trouble, and we need your help. The language is carefully chosen. Family. Raised you. Need. All the words designed to trigger my lifelong conditioning, to activate the programming that says I exist to serve, to sacrifice, to put everyone else first. And I feel it working, feel the old patterns trying to assert themselves. The instinct to say yes to make it easier to take care of everyone because that's what I do. That's who I am. Except it's not who I am. Not anymore. I watch them watching me, waiting for my response, expecting me to cave because I always have before. Mom's tears. Dad's shame, the weight of family obligation pressing down like it has for 37 years. But something fundamental has shifted inside me. The woman who gave up MIT because she believed her father was dying, who stayed home instead of taking opportunities because family needed her, who absorbed years of mockery and dismissal while believing she somehow deserved it, that woman is gone. In her place is someone who knows her worth. Someone who's saved thousands of lives. Someone who's about to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Someone who's been lied to, manipulated, and exploited by the very people who were supposed to protect and nurture her. I stand up, and something in my movement makes them both freeze. Maybe it's the set of my shoulders, or the expression on my face, or the way I'm looking at them like I'm seeing them clearly for the first time. When I speak, my voice is cold and controlled, nothing like the accommodating daughter they've always known. If you want my help, we must clarify everything first. Mom's face goes through a rapid series of changes, surprise, confusion, and then a flicker of something that might be fear. She's not used to hearing that tone from me. None of them are. Clarify what? She asks carefully. Everything, starting with the interviews you gave tonight. I pull out my phone, opening the notes Julia sent me while I was on the porch with Kelsey. You told Channel 7 that you've always been proud of me, that you encouraged my dreams from childhood, that the family has been integral to my success. You told reporters you have boxes of memories, you'd be happy to share stories about raising a presidential medal recipient. Mom's eyes dart to Dad, then back to me. Well, we do have memories. You're our daughter. Of course we're proud. Every word you said was a lie. I interrupt, my voice steady. And before I even consider helping with your debt, you're going to publicly correct those lies. The silence that follows is thick enough to choke on. Publicly, Mom finally says, her voice rising. You want us to go back to those reporters and say what exactly? That we made mistakes, that we weren't perfect parents. Amber, that would embarrass the entire family. Truth never hurt anyone, I say, and the words come out harder than I intended. Only lies do. You can tell the truth, that we had a complicated relationship, that you didn't know about my work, that you made assumptions. Or you can tell them nothing at all. But you will not continue to claim credit for success you actively tried to prevent. Dad stands up, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Amber, honey, I think you're upset, understandably so, and maybe we should all take a breath and... I'm not upset, Dad. I'm clear. Maybe for the first time in my life I'm seeing everything clearly. I look at Mom. You told me tonight I was unemployed. You let relatives pity me. You let Kelsey mock me. And 30 minutes later, when you found out the truth, your first instinct wasn't to apologize or feel remorse. It was to figure out how to profit from it. That's not fair, Mom protests, but there's no real conviction in her voice. Isn't it? You've known about the medal for 3 weeks, Kelsey told me. 3 weeks you had to process this to maybe reconsider how you've treated me, and you chose to say nothing. You let me walk into this dinner blind, let me sit through being humiliated because it served your purposes somehow. Mom's face flushes red. We were respecting the White House's confidentiality request. We were told not to say anything until the official announcement. You could have told me you knew, I counter. You could have pulled me aside, said congratulations, privately acknowledged it in any way, but you didn't because that wasn't useful to you. Dad sits back down heavily, looking older than he did an hour ago. Mom's mouth opens and closes, but no words come out. They're not used to me fighting back, not used to me holding them accountable. Here are my terms. I continue pacing now, energy thrumming through me. If you want financial help, you will attend family therapy, all of you. Weekly sessions for at least 6 months with a licensed therapist who specializes in family dynamics and emotional abuse. Emotional abuse? Mom's voice goes shrill. How dare you? You fabricated a cancer diagnosis to manipulate me into giving up MIT. What would you call that? The color drains from her face. She glances at Kelsey, who looks away. Who told you that? Does it matter? It's true, isn't it? She doesn't answer, which is answer enough. In addition to therapy, I continue. You will not use my name or my company's name in any media appearances, interviews, or social media posts without my explicit written permission. You will not claim credit for my work or suggest you were involved in my success. You will respect my boundaries, which I will establish clearly, and if you violate them, all support ends immediately. This is ridiculous, Mom says, standing now, her voice shaking with anger. You're turning a simple request for help into some kind of power play. This is unnecessary drama, Amber. We're family. Why can't you just help us without all these conditions? Because just helping you doesn't solve anything, I reply. It would be putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. You'd burn through whatever money I gave you, end up in debt again, and we'd be right back here. Except next time you'd feel even more entitled to my help because I'd already given it once. You don't know that, Dad says quietly. Don't I? How did you accumulate $200,000 in debt? Dad, bad luck, poor investment choices, or decades of living beyond your means, making reckless financial decisions and assuming someone would eventually bail you out. He doesn't answer, just stares at his hands. I look at Mom. And you. You've spent my entire life managing appearances, obsessing over what neighbors think, what relatives believe, how things look from the outside. Even tonight, your biggest concern about correcting your lies isn't that lying is wrong, it's that the truth would be embarrassing. What do you want from us? She asks. And for the first time, I hear something genuine in her voice. Not remorse, not really, but at least acknowledgement that her usual tactics aren't working. I want you to do the work. I say simply. Real work. Therapy to understand why you treated me the way you did. Financial counseling to learn how to manage money responsibly. And genuine effort to build a healthier relationship with me, if that's even possible at this point. Kelsey has been silent through all of this, standing against the wall near the doorway, watching me with an expression I can't quite read. Fear, maybe, or respect, possibly both. She's seeing a version of me she's never encountered before, someone who refuses to be diminished, who demands to be treated with basic dignity. And if we refuse, Mom asks, her voice cold, then you refuse and you handle your debt yourselves. I'll pay off the loan you took out in my name because I don't want that hanging over me legally, but that's it. Everything else is your responsibility. You'd let us lose our house. There's genuine shock in her voice, as if this outcome is unthinkable. You're letting you lose your house, I correct, through choices you made. I'm not responsible for fixing problems I didn't create, especially not when the people asking for help have spent decades tearing me down. My phone buzzes insistently in my hand. Julia calling again. I glance at the screen and see she's sent multiple texts in the last few minutes, each one marked urgent. I need to take this, I say, already moving toward the hallway. We're not done here, Mom calls after me. Yes, we are, I reply without turning around. For tonight at least. Think about what I said. You have until tomorrow evening to decide if you're willing to meet my terms. I step into the hallway and answer the call. Julia, what's wrong? Her voice is tight, urgent. Amber, we have a problem. A big one. Someone is actively trying to destroy your reputation. It's all over Twitter right now, accusations that you embezzled funds from CareConnect, that the platform doesn't actually work, that the medal is based on falsified data. The story is gaining traction fast. My stomach drops. Who's behind it? We're trying to track the source, but whoever it is, they're organized and they have money. This is a coordinated attack. I close my eyes, feeling the evening's triumphs start to crumble. Of course this couldn't just be a moment of victory. Nothing in my life has ever been simple. I'm on my way, I tell Julia. Send me everything you have. I end the call and stand in the hallway, caught between my family's demands behind me and a new crisis ahead. Through the living room doorway, I can see Mom and Dad talking in low, urgent voices. Kelsey is watching me. Her expression unreadable. Everything is falling apart and I haven't even left the house yet. I move quickly down the hallway toward the front door, phone pressed to my ear, as Julia continues briefing me on the crisis unfolding in real time. Behind me, I hear chairs scraping, my family following, unable to let me leave without knowing what's happening. Tell me everything, I say to Julia, grabbing my coat from the rack by the door. The source appears to be Margaret Chen, Julia says, and the name makes me stop mid-motion. CEO of HealthBridge Solutions. She's been tweeting from her verified account for the last 30 minutes, making allegations that CareConnect has misappropriated charitable donations, that our patient outcome data is falsified, and that you personally embezzled funds to finance a lavish lifestyle. Margaret Chen. We competed for the same National Institutes of Health grant 2 years ago, a $20 million award for rural healthcare innovation. My proposal won. Her company, which had seemed like the sure bet given their establishment connections and her Ivy League pedigree, came in second. She'd congratulated me publicly while her eyes burned with barely concealed rage. I'd heard through industry contacts that she'd taken the loss badly, that she blamed politics and favoritism rather than acknowledging that my proposal was simply stronger, more innovative, more focused on actual patient outcomes rather than profit margins. But I never imagined she'd been nursing a grudge this long, waiting for exactly the right moment to strike. How viral is it? I ask, shrugging into my coat. 3 of her tweets have over 50,000 retweets each. News aggregator sites are picking it up. I'm seeing headlines like Presidential Medal winner accused of fraud and CareConnect scandal, what we know. It's moving fast, Amber. Faster than anything I've seen. My mind races through the implications. The accusations are completely false. Our books are immaculate, regularly audited, transparent to the point of paranoia, because I never wanted anyone to question our integrity. But in the court of public opinion, truth matters less than timing. A lie can circle the globe, while truth is still putting on its shoes. What about our sponsors and partners? I ask, already knowing the answer won't be good. The Jameson Foundation called 20 minutes ago requesting clarification. St. Mary's Hospital System sent a formal inquiry asking for documentation of our financial practices. 3 potential new partners have suddenly gone quiet, not canceling, but clearly waiting to see how this plays out. Julia's voice cracks slightly. Amber, if this gains more momentum, if the major media outlets pick it up before we can respond, it could destroy everything we've built. Where are you now? At the office. I pulled in Marcus and Diane from accounting. We're gathering every financial document we have, every audit report, every donor acknowledgement. We'll have a complete defense package ready within the hour. Good. I'm coming in. I'll be there in... Amber, wait. Julia's voice drops. There's something else you need to know. The timing of this isn't coincidental. Margaret posted her first tweet 17 minutes after the White House announcement. She was waiting for this exact moment when you're most visible, most vulnerable to scrutiny, when one negative story could drown out the metal news completely. The strategy is both brilliant and vicious. Attack when your opponent is at their highest visibility, when the media is hungry for any story about them, when doubt can spread like wildfire because everyone is already paying attention. She's been planning this, I say quietly. For months, probably. Maybe years. This is too coordinated, too well executed to be spontaneous. Behind me, Mom's voice cuts through my conversation. What's going on, Amber? What's happening? I turn to see my entire family clustered in the hallway, their faces showing varying degrees of concern. But I notice their concern isn't directed at me, it's directed at the situation, at how this might affect them. Someone is trying to destroy my reputation, I say flatly. False allegations of embezzlement and fraud. Mom's hand flies to her mouth, but her next words confirm my suspicions about her priorities. Oh God, this is going to be all over the news. Everyone will see. The neighbors, the relatives, everyone we just talked to. Linda, Dad says quietly, but she's not listening. See? Mom continues, her voice rising with what sounds like vindication. This is what happens with fame. This is why you should have stayed quiet, kept your head down. But no, you had to go public with everything, had to accept this. Metal had to make yourself a target. Now look what's happened. The accusation is so absurd, so perfectly encapsulating her worldview, that I almost laugh. I'm being attacked by a jealous competitor, and somehow my mother has made it my fault for being successful in the first place. Are you serious right now? Kelsey says before I can respond, her voice sharp. Someone is trying to destroy Amber's life work, and you're blaming her for being recognized. Mom whirls on her. I'm saying that maybe if she hadn't made such a spectacle... I interrupt, my voice cold. I received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I didn't seek publicity. I didn't call the press. I built something meaningful and people noticed. That's not making a spectacle that's succeeding despite everything you did to prevent it. Dad steps forward, his face pale. Is this serious? Could you actually face charges? The allegations are completely false, I say. But false accusations can still do tremendous damage. The platform serves thousands of elderly patients who depend on it. If major hospitals pull their partnerships, if donors withdraw support, if the media runs with this story before I can defend myself, I stop, the implications too horrible to voice fully. So, what are you going to do? Dad asks, and for once his concern seems genuine. Fight back, document everything, prove the allegations are false, and expose who's behind them. Mom is pacing now, wringing her hands. But the debt, our house, the money we need if your company collapses, if you're facing legal problems. She stops, looking at me with something close to panic. You'll still help us, right? Even if this all falls apart. And there it is. Her real fear isn't that I'm being attacked. It's that the financial lifeline she was counting on might disappear. Are you actually asking me that right now? The words come out quieter than I intended, but they carry the full weight of my exhaustion and disgust. I'm just trying to understand our situation, Mom says defensively. Your situation, I correct. This isn't about you. For once in my life, something isn't about you and what you need. My phone buzzes with an incoming email notification. I glance at the screen and see it's from an address I don't recognize, a string of numbers and letters that looks intentionally anonymous. The subject line reads, Urgent Margaret Chen allegations. I need to go, I tell my family, already moving toward the door. Amber, wait. Mom starts. But I'm done waiting. Done explaining. Done prioritizing their comfort over my own crisis. Julia, I'm heading to the office now, I say into the phone as I step outside into the cold night air. Behind me, I hear Mom still talking, still trying to pull me back, still trying to make this about her needs. But I'm already down the porch steps, already climbing into my car, already pulling up the anonymous email on my phone. It contains a single line. I have evidence that can help you reverse this situation, but we need to meet tonight. Alone. I'll explain everything. There's an address, a coffee shop downtown that stays open late, and a time midnight. It could be a trap. It could be someone trying to take advantage of my desperation. But it could also be exactly what I need. I look up at my parents' house, at the windows glowing warm in the darkness, at the family that never saw me until I became useful. Then I start the car and drive toward whatever comes next. The coffee shop is nearly empty at this hour, just a few college students bent over laptops and a barista wiping down the counter with mechanical efficiency. I arrive 10 minutes early, my nerves wound tight, scanning every face for potential threats or recognition. The last thing I need is another journalist or someone recording this meeting. I order a black coffee I won't drink and take a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. My phone is charging in my pocket, recording app ready to activate if needed. Julia knows where I am and has instructions to call the police if I don't check in within 2 hours. At 11:58, a man enters. He's maybe 40, wearing jeans and a knit cap pulled low over his forehead, a winter jacket zipped to his chin despite the warmth inside. His eyes sweep the room nervously before landing on me. Even from across the coffee shop, I can see his hands trembling as he approaches. "Ms. Reynolds." His voice is barely above a whisper. "That's me. And you are David Cho." He slides into the booth across from me, keeping his back to the rest of the shop. "I worked for HealthBridge Solutions until 3 months ago. I was on Margaret Chen's strategic development team." My pulse quickens. What happened 3 months ago? I quit. Or rather, I was forced out after I refused to participate in... He stops, pulling off his cap and running a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry. I'm nervous. I've been carrying this for so long, and now that I'm actually here, I'm terrified of the consequences." "Take your time," I say, though everything in me wants to rush him. He reaches into a messenger bag at his feet and pulls out 3 manila folders, setting them on the table with hands that won't stop shaking. "About 6 months ago, Margaret became obsessed with your platform. She'd monitor every article written about Care Connect, every partnership announcement, every patient success story. She had a Google alert set up for your name. She'd rant in meetings about how you stole her funding, how you didn't deserve the recognition you were getting." "We competed fairly for that NIH grant," I say. "I know. Everyone knew. But she couldn't accept it. She started talking about correcting the narrative, about exposing the truth. At first we thought she just meant competitive research finding weaknesses in your platform to position ours as superior. That's normal industry practice. But it wasn't just that." He shakes his head. "She had me create false data reports showing that Care Connect's patient outcomes were fabricated. She wanted me to doctor screenshots of your financial statements to make it look like you were diverting charitable donations to personal accounts. She had another team member create fake patient testimonials, claiming your platform had failed them, that they'd been harmed by inadequate care. The scope of it takes my breath away. This wasn't just opportunistic attacks, it was systematic fraud designed to destroy me. I told her I couldn't do it, that it was illegal, that we'd be caught, that it was wrong." His voice drops even lower. "She said if I didn't cooperate, she'd ensure I never worked in healthcare technology again. She has connections everywhere, investors, boards, hiring managers. She could blacklist me with a few phone calls." "So what did you do?" "I created the false reports. I'm not proud of it. I was terrified of losing everything, my career, my house, my ability to support my family. But I kept copies of everything. Every email she sent, every instruction she gave, every piece of fabricated evidence. I documented all of it." He pushes the folders toward me. "It's all here. Emails where she explicitly instructs me to falsify data. Audio recordings from planning meetings where she outlines her strategy to take you down the moment you received public recognition. Financial reports showing that her own company has been misreporting patient outcomes and overcharging Medicare. Everything she's accusing you of, she's actually guilty of herself. I open the first folder with trembling fingers. The emails are damning Margaret's words, dripping with venom and calculation. The timestamps show months of planning, meticulous preparation for this exact attack. Why now? I ask. Why come forward tonight? He's quiet for a moment, his eyes glistening. Because this afternoon, when I saw you receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom, when I saw what she was trying to do to you, I couldn't stay silent anymore. And because... He pulls out his phone, scrolling through photos before turning the screen toward me. It shows an elderly woman, probably late 70s, sitting in a sunny living room. She's smiling at the camera, her arm around a young child, maybe 3 years old, who's holding up a drawing. The joy in both their faces is unmistakable. "That's my mother," David says, his voice cracking. "Last March she had a stroke. She lives alone in rural Virginia, 2 hours from the nearest hospital. She was using your platform for a routine check-in with her doctor when it happened. The system detected the signs immediately: facial drooping, slurred speech, confusion. It automatically contacted emergency services and her primary care physician. The paramedics arrived within 12 minutes. He swipes to another photo, this one showing the same woman in a hospital bed, tired but alive, giving a thumbs up. The doctor said if she'd waited even 30 minutes longer, she would have died or suffered permanent brain damage. Your platform saved her life. She's recovered now. You can see in that first photo, that's her with my son, her grandson. She's teaching him to paint." A tear rolls down his cheek. "She wouldn't be here without you. My son wouldn't know his grandmother, and I was helping someone try to destroy the thing that saved her." The weight of his words settles over me, and suddenly this isn't just about clearing my name or protecting my company. It's about every person like David's mother, every elderly patient who depends on care. Connect. Every family who's been spared the devastating loss that comes from inadequate healthcare access. "The guilt has been eating me alive," David continues. "I quit as soon as I could arrange other employment. I've been trying to figure out how to make this right. When I saw Margaret's tweets tonight, saw her putting her plan into action, I knew I had to do something. The evidence in these folders is enough to destroy her, to expose everything she's done. But I need you to be the one who brings it forward. I can't. If I go public, she'll bury me. But you have the platform now. You have credibility. People will listen to you." I look at the folders, at the documented evidence of a conspiracy to destroy me, and by extension to harm the thousands of vulnerable people who rely on my platform. The scope of Margaret's vindictiveness is staggering, but so is the clarity of the evidence David has provided. This could trigger criminal investigations, I say slowly. Medicare fraud conspiracy, falsifying federal documents. Margaret Chen could face serious charges. "She should," David says firmly. "What she's doing isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. If she succeeds in destroying your platform, people will die. Elderly people in rural areas will lose access to care. That's not competitive business, that's harm." I close the folders and meet his eyes. "Thank you for this, for having the courage to come forward, for choosing truth over fear." "I should have done it sooner," he says quietly. My phone buzzes with another message from Julia. The attacks are intensifying. More news outlets are picking up the story. We're losing ground by the minute. But now I have the ammunition to fight back. Not just to defend myself, but to go on the offensive. To expose corruption and protect the patients who depend on Care Connect. I stand up, gathering the folders. "I'm taking this to Congress." David's eyes widen. "Congress?" I was already invited to testify before the Senate Healthcare Committee about expanding rural healthcare access. This changes everything. This isn't just about defending myself anymore. It's about exposing systematic corruption in healthcare technology, about protecting vulnerable populations from companies that see them as profit centers rather than people. "Will you..." He hesitates. Will you keep my name out of it? At least initially, I'm willing to testify if subpoenaed, but I have a family to protect. I'll do everything I can to protect your identity. But David, if this goes where I think it will, you may eventually have to come forward publicly. He nods, jaw set with determination. I know. And I will. My mother deserves that. All the people you've helped deserve that. I extend my hand. Thank you. You've saved countless lives tonight, including mine. As I drive back through the dark streets toward my office, toward Julia and the team working frantically to defend our reputation, I feel something shift inside me. This isn't just survival anymore. This is war. The formal invitation from the Senate Healthcare Committee arrives via email at 3:47 a.m. while I'm still at the office, surrounded by financial documents and legal briefs. Senator Martinez herself has signed it, requesting my testimony in a special hearing on healthcare innovation, fraud prevention, and protecting vulnerable populations from predatory practices in the medical technology sector. The hearing is scheduled for next Thursday, 6 days away. Nationally televised on C-SPAN, and likely to be picked up by major news networks given the current controversy swirling around my name. Millions of people will watch me either vindicate myself or crumble under scrutiny. Julia looks up from her laptop, reading the same email. This is it. This is your chance to control the narrative. Or to spectacularly fail in front of the entire country, I say. But even as the words leave my mouth, I know I have no choice. This hearing is exactly what I need, a platform with credibility, with official record-keeping, where truth carries more weight than social media accusations. The next 72 hours blur into an exhausting marathon of preparation. I hire a legal team specializing in congressional testimony. We rehearse in conference rooms, my lawyers playing hostile senators, throwing worst-case scenario questions at me, while I practice staying calm, staying factual, never getting defensive. Ms. Reynolds, how do you explain the allegations that you've personally benefited from charitable donations? Senator, our financial records are completely transparent and regularly audited by independent firms. Every dollar is accounted for, and I'd be happy to provide comprehensive documentation. But social media suggests social media is not evidence, Senator. Documents are evidence. Audits are evidence. And I have both. We go through this again and again until my voice goes hoarse, until I can answer attack questions in my sleep. But the rehearsals don't prepare me for the emotional weight of what I'm carrying. Every time I close my eyes, I see David Cho's mother's face, see the thousands of other patients depending on Care Connect, feel the crushing responsibility of knowing that my testimony could determine whether vulnerable people continue receiving care or lose access entirely. During a practice session on Tuesday, my hands start shaking so badly I have to set down my water glass. Julia notices, and when the lawyers step out for a break, she sits beside me. You haven't slept in days, she says quietly. I'll sleep after Thursday. Amber, you're carrying too much. The company, the family drama, the congressional testimony defending against Margaret's attacks, nobody can handle all of that without breaking. Then I'll break after Thursday, I reply, but my voice cracks on the words. That evening my phone rings, Mom's name on the screen. I consider not answering, but some part of me still hopes foolishly, perhaps, that she's calling to offer support. Amber, you have to stop this, she says before I can even say hello. Her voice is thick with tears, but I can't tell if they're real or performed. Everyone's talking about you, about us. The neighbors are asking questions. Aunt Carol called 3 times today wanting to know what's really going on. You're dragging the entire family into this public mess. I'm not dragging anyone anywhere. I say, exhaustion making my words sharper than intended. I'm defending myself against false accusations. By going to Congress, by making everything public. Can't you just handle this quietly? Talk to whoever you need to talk to behind closed doors. That's not how this works, Mom. I've been offered a platform to speak truth and expose corruption. I'm taking it. But what about us? What about your family? Don't you care how this affects us? The question is so absurd, so perfectly encapsulating her worldview that I almost laugh. After everything, after the lies, the sabotage, the years of dismissal, she's asking if I care how my defense affects her. Mom, I have to go. I have work to do. You're being selfish. After everything we've done for you, everything we've sacrificed. I hang up. Just press the button and end the call, something I've never had the courage to do before. The phone sits silent in my hand, and I wait for the guilt to come, for the familiar weight of disappointing her. But it doesn't come. I feel sad, yes. Exhausted. But not guilty. The next morning, a manila envelope arrives at my office via courier. No return address. Inside is a single sheet of paper with words cut from magazines assembled like a ransom note from a crime movie. If you testify, you will pay the price. This is your only warning. Julia calls security immediately. I contact the FBI liaison who's been monitoring the threats against public figures in healthcare. But even as I go through the proper procedures, even as everyone around me treats this as a serious threat, something cold and clear settles in my chest. I'm testifying anyway. The FBI field office is intimidatingly sterile, all fluorescent lights and beige walls that seem designed to strip away any pretense or performance. Agent Morrison examines the threatening letter with professional detachment, her gloved hands holding it up to the light as if the paper itself might reveal its sender. "You're not the first prominent tech figure to receive something like this," she says, setting it down in an evidence bag. "When you threaten powerful financial interests, especially in healthcare where billions of dollars are at stake, people get desperate. We've seen this pattern before. Intimidation tactics designed to silence whistleblowers, or anyone who might expose corruption. So this isn't just about Margaret Chen," I say, though I've already suspected as much. "Probably not. Your congressional testimony will shine a spotlight on fraudulent practices throughout the healthcare technology sector. There are companies, investors, and executives who have a lot to lose if real oversight and accountability become standard. You're threatening an entire ecosystem built on exploiting vulnerable populations." The scale of what I'm up against settles over me like a heavy coat. This isn't a personal vendetta anymore, it's institutional opposition to transparency and reform. Agent Morrison pulls out a folder. "We're assigning you a protective detail. 2 agents will be with you at all times until after the testimony. We'll also monitor your office, your home, and your travel routes. I need you to vary your daily patterns. Don't go to the same coffee shop every morning. Don't drive the same route to work. Don't establish predictable routines." "For how long?" "Until we assess that the threat level has decreased, which likely won't be until after your testimony, possibly longer, depending on what comes out during the hearing." I leave the FBI office with 2 agents flanking me, their presence both reassuring and unsettling. The SUV they drive feels like a fortress on wheels, tinted windows blocking the outside world. "We need to stop at my parents' house," I tell them. "They should know about the threats, should be cautious." The lead agent nods. "We'll do a security sweep when we arrive." My parents' neighborhood looks surreal with an FBI vehicle parked in the driveway. I can see curtains twitching in nearby houses. Neighbors no doubt wondering what's happening at the Reynolds home now. More drama to feed the gossip mill. Mom answers the door, her face going pale when she sees the agents behind me. "Amber, what?" "Can we come in? We need to talk." Inside, I explain the situation as clearly and calmly as I can. The threats, the FBI involvement, the need for everyone to be vigilant. Dad sits forward in his chair, his face grave, actually listening for once. But Mom's reaction is predictable. "FBI agents at our house," she says, her voice rising with each word. "Do you know what the neighbors are going to think? What they're going to say? Margaret Wilson just walked by with her dog. I saw her staring. This is going to be all over the neighborhood by dinner time." "Linda," Dad says quietly, but she's not finished. "First the news vans, now federal agents. You're turning our lives into a circus, Amber. Can't you just drop this, apologize, or make some kind of settlement or whatever it takes to make this go away quietly?" People are threatening me because I'm going to testify about fraud and corruption. I say, my voice flat. And you're worried about neighborhood gossip. I'm worried about our reputation, about how this reflects on us. Agent Morrison steps forward, her voice professional but firm. Ma'am, these threats should be taken seriously. We recommend you also vary your routines, be aware of your surroundings, report anything unusual. Mom looks at her like she's suggested something obscene. You want me to change my life because of Amber's problems? The words hang in the air, and I see Agent Morrison's expression shift almost imperceptibly, a flash of judgment quickly masked. Even a stranger can see what I've lived with for 37 years. Dad at least looks worried, though. True to form, he says nothing in my defense. Just sits there, caught between his wife's hysteria and his daughter's genuine danger, paralyzed by his lifelong inability to choose sides. I'll be careful, he finally says to me. You too, honey. It's the most support he's offered in years, and it's still not enough. But I've stopped expecting more from him. Back in the SUV heading toward my apartment, I pull out my phone and scroll through saved emails. The letters from patients I keep for moments exactly like this when the weight threatens to crush me, and I need to remember why this matters. Thomas from Wyoming. Your platform let me stay in my home instead of moving to a nursing home. I'm 83 and I got to die where I lived. Thank you. He'd sent that 3 months before he passed. His daughter had written afterward to say he'd had dignity in his final days because of Care Connect. Maria from rural Alabama. My daughter lives in California. Your system lets her check on me every day, makes sure I take my medicine, connects her to my doctors. I'm not alone anymore. James, a veteran in Montana. 20 years I tried to get treatment for my service-related injuries. Your platform connected me to a VA specialist who actually helped. First time anyone's listened. These are the people I'm fighting for. Not my mother's reputation, not my family's comfort, but people like Thomas and Maria and James who deserve access to health care regardless of where they live or how much money they have. The day of testimony arrives with crisp November clarity. I dress in a navy suit, professional but not showy, and practice my opening statement one final time in the mirror. My hands are steady now. The fear has transformed into something else, purpose maybe? Or just the certainty that comes from knowing you're doing the right thing, regardless of cost. Julia meets me at the Senate building, her face tight with nervous energy. The room is packed. Every major news network is here. This is going to be everywhere. Good, I say and mean it. Let's make sure the truth is everywhere, too. As I walk toward the hearing room flanked by agents and lawyers, I think about David Cho's mother, about the photo of her smiling with her grandson, about the thousands of faces I'll never see, lives I've touched without knowing their names. The double doors open and camera flashes explode like stars. The entire nation is watching. And I'm ready. The hearing room is larger than I expected, with vaulted ceilings and dark wood paneling that speaks of power and history. Senators sit elevated behind a curved bench, their nameplates gleaming under lights positioned for the cameras. Every seat in the gallery is filled journalists, healthcare advocates, representatives from competing companies, and somewhere in that crowd, Margaret Chen herself. I take my seat at the witness table, adjust the microphone, and look directly at Senator Martinez. Her expression is neutral but not unkind. She knows what I'm about to do. Ms. Reynolds, she begins, thank you for appearing before this committee. In light of recent allegations, we thought it important to hear directly from you about Care Connect's operations, your platform's impact, and the challenges facing healthcare innovation in America. I take a breath, feeling the weight of millions of eyes watching through cameras, and begin. Thank you, Senator. I'd like to start not by defending myself, but by talking about the people Care Connect serves. My voice is steady, clearer than I expected. Elderly Americans in rural communities who live hours from the nearest hospital. People who can't drive anymore, who can't afford repeated trips to specialists, who face a choice between healthcare and financial ruin. I pull up my first slide, a map showing healthcare deserts across America, vast swaths of red indicating areas where elderly residents have inadequate access to medical care. Before Care. Connect, a 78-year-old farmer in Montana with diabetes, had to drive 4 hours round trip for a specialist appointment. If he missed that appointment, his condition worsened. If he went, he lost a day of work and spent money he didn't have on gas. CareConnect changed that equation. Now he video conferences with his endocrinologist monthly, his glucose monitor sends automatic readings, and when levels spike, the system alerts both him and his care team immediately. I click to the next slide: patient outcome data carefully documented and independently verified. Since launching 5 years ago, CareConnect has facilitated 1.2 million medical consultations. We've prevented an estimated 47,000 emergency room visits by catching problems early. We've saved approximately 3,000 lives through rapid response coordination when patients show signs of stroke, heart attack, or other emergencies. Senator Chen, no relation to Margaret, leans forward. Those are impressive numbers, Ms. Reynolds. But there have been accusations that this data is fabricated. How do you respond? I welcome scrutiny of our data, Senator. Every number I've cited comes from independent audits conducted by Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. I've provided the committee with complete documentation, including methodology, raw data, and verification protocols. I distribute folders to the senators, watching them open the comprehensive evidence my team assembled. Margaret Chen, sitting 3 rows back, has gone very pale. Now, regarding the allegations of financial misconduct, I continue, my voice hardening slightly. I'd like to address those directly by presenting evidence about where those accusations actually originated. I nod to the technician, and the first audio recording begins playing through the room's speakers. Margaret's voice crystal clear, instructing David Cho to falsify patient outcome reports. The room goes silent except for her recorded words, each sentence more damning than the last. Senators lean forward. Journalists type frantically. Margaret Chen stands abruptly, her lawyer grabbing her arm to pull her back down. This recording, I explain as it ends, is one of 7 documenting a systematic conspiracy to destroy CareConnect's reputation through fabricated accusations. I have emails, financial records, and testimony from a whistleblower who was threatened into participation before his conscience compelled him to come forward. Senator Williams, a Republican from Texas known for his harsh questioning, speaks up. Ms. Reynolds, this is quite an accusation you're making against a competitor. Ms. Chen, would you like to respond? Margaret stands again, her face flushed. These recordings are taken out of context. Context. Senator Martinez interrupts, holding up a printed email. This email from you explicitly instructs your team to create documentation showing Reynolds embezzled charity funds. What context makes that acceptable? Margaret's lawyer whispers urgently in her ear, but the damage is done. Another senator notes that preliminary investigation shows HealthBridge Solutions has multiple Medicare fraud complaints pending. The hearing that was meant to destroy me is dismantling Margaret instead. But I'm not finished. This isn't just about clearing my name, it's about the people who depend on what I've built. Senators, I want to share some specific stories with patients' permission. I say, and I see several senators settle back to listen. I tell them about Robert, the 82-year-old Iowa farmer who was facing amputation due to an undiagnosed infection. CareConnect's monitoring system caught the early signs and connected him to a wound specialist who saved his leg. I describe Grace, the grandmother in rural Mississippi, who couldn't travel to her grandson's college graduation due to her oxygen dependence. Through CareConnect's video system, she attended virtually, tears streaming down her face as she watched him receive his diploma. I share testimonial after testimonial, each one a real person whose life was changed by having access to care they couldn't otherwise reach. By the time I finish, Senator Martinez is blinking back tears. Senator Williams, the hardliner from Texas, is looking at me with something like respect. Even journalists in the gallery have stopped typing to listen. These are the stakes, I conclude. Not my reputation, not corporate competition, but whether elderly Americans in underserved areas get the care they need and deserve. That's what I built CareConnect to address, and that's what I'll continue fighting for regardless of who tries to tear me down. The committee chair thanks me, and I gather my materials with trembling hands that I hope the cameras don't catch. As I stand to leave, passing through the gallery toward the exit, I see them. My parents standing near the back door, their faces unreadable masks that I've spent 37 years trying to decode and never quite understanding. Mom's expression hovers somewhere between shock and something I can't identify. Dad's eyes are red as if he's been crying, but his face remains carefully neutral. As I approach, neither speaks. The silence stretches between us, heavy with everything unsaid, everything that can never be unsaid, everything that's changed, and everything that never will. Mom moves first, rushing forward with arms outstretched. She pulls me into an embrace that feels rehearsed, her movements practiced like an actress hitting her marks. Dad joins in, and suddenly I'm surrounded by my parents in what must look to the journalists and staffers watching like a touching family reunion after a daughter's moment of triumph. But I can feel the emptiness of it. Their arms are mechanical, their murmured words of, "We're so proud," and "You were amazing," carrying no weight, no authenticity. This isn't the embrace of parents who've watched their child succeed. It's the calculated move of people repositioning themselves to maintain access to someone who's suddenly valuable. "You did wonderfully, sweetheart." Mom says loudly enough for nearby people to hear her voice projecting warmth she doesn't feel. "We knew you would." A journalist approaches camera ready. "Mrs. Reynolds, how does it feel to watch your daughter speak before Congress?" Mom doesn't miss a beat. "Oh, it's incredibly moving. We've always believed in Amber's vision. From the time she was young, we could see she had a special gift for helping people." I feel her arm tighten around my waist, keeping me close, keeping me in the frame. Dad nods along his face, arranged into an expression of paternal pride that looks practiced in a mirror. The journalist eats it up, scribbling notes. To everyone watching, this looks like a beautiful family moment, supportive parents celebrating their daughter's achievement. Only I can feel how hollow it is, how each word Mom speaks is a brick in the wall she's building around my success, claiming it as partly hers. As the journalist moves away, Mom leans in close, her voice dropping to exclude the agent standing a respectful distance away. "Amber, listen. Good Morning America wants to interview our whole family. All four of us, you, me, your father, and Kelsey. They want to hear about your upbringing, how we supported your dreams, what it was like raising such an accomplished daughter." There it is, the real purpose of this reunion. "They're offering very good exposure." She continues, her grip on my arm tightening. "It would be wonderful for the family. Show everyone that we're unified, that we support each other. You know how important family image is, especially now with all this attention." I hear the underlying message: clearly participate in our narrative, or we'll create a different one where you're the ungrateful daughter who abandoned the family that raised her. It's manipulation dressed as opportunity control, disguised as togetherness. "I need time," I say gently but firmly, extracting myself from her grip. The words land like a slap. Mom's face tightens, her practiced smile faltering for just a moment before she reconstructs it. But I see the flash of frustration in her eyes, the anger at being denied. She's not used to this, to me setting boundaries, to me having the power to say no. "Time," she repeats, her voice careful. "Honey, these opportunities don't wait. If we don't respond quickly, they'll move on to other stories." "Then they'll move on," I say simply. Dad shifts his weight, looking between us with that familiar, helpless expression. He's done this my entire life, stood between Mom and her children, unable or unwilling to take a side, paralyzed by conflict. Even now, when I'm clearly establishing a boundary, he says nothing. Just watches, waiting to see which way the wind blows so he can adjust accordingly. "Amber, be reasonable." Mom tries again, her voice taking on an edge. "After everything we've been through, everything that's happened, don't you think we deserve—" "I need to go," I interrupt. "The FBI wants me back at a secure location. We can talk about this later." "Later when—" Her frustration is breaking through now, her voice rising slightly. "You can't just—" Later, I repeat firmly and start walking toward the agents waiting by the exit. I feel their stares on my back, feel the weight of Mom's displeasure and Dad's disappointment radiating across the distance. But I don't turn around. Don't look back. Don't apologize or soften or accommodate. For the first time in 37 years, I'm simply walking away. The agents flank me as we move through the building's corridor, their presence a reminder that this isn't over, that the threats are still real, that winning one battle doesn't mean winning the war. My phone buzzes in my pocket, messages flooding in, probably congratulations mixed with continued attack support, tangled with skepticism. But one notification stands out. A call from Kelsey, then another. Then a text that makes my steps falter. "Amber, call me now. Emergency." I stop walking, the agents pausing with me. Another text arrives. "Something's happened. You need to come home right now, please." The fear in those two words, please, cuts through everything else. Kelsey doesn't say please. She demands, manipulates, performs. But this feels different. Genuine. I dial her number, my heart suddenly pounding. She answers on the first ring. "Amber." Her voice is shaking, barely controlled. "Where are you?" "Leaving the Senate building. What's wrong?" "It's Mom. Kelsey's voice breaks. "After you left, she collapsed. We're at Georgetown Medical Center. Dad's with her now, but he can't. She's crying now." Words coming in gasps. "The doctors are saying it might be a stroke. You need to come. Please, I don't know what to do." The world tilts sideways, everything I just walked away from suddenly crashing back with devastating force. I arrive at Georgetown Medical Center within 20 minutes, the FBI agents clearing a path through the emergency entrance. Kelsey meets me in the waiting area, her makeup smeared from crying, her expensive coat thrown on carelessly. She looks smaller than I've ever seen her, stripped of the armor she usually wears. "They stabilized her," she says, immediately reading the panic I'm trying to hide. "It wasn't a stroke. The doctors think it was a severe panic attack combined with exhaustion and high blood pressure. She's sedated now. They're running more tests." Relief floods through me, followed immediately by a complicated tangle of other emotions I don't have names for. And Dad, with her. They'll only let one person in at a time. Kelsey gestures to the plastic chairs. "Can we talk while we wait?" We sit in the fluorescent-lit waiting room, surrounded by the ambient sounds of a hospital beeping monitors, hushed conversations, the squeak of nurses' shoes on linoleum. Kelsey pulls out her phone, scrolling to something before handing it to me. "This came yesterday. I was going to tell you, but then everything happened so fast." It's a foreclosure notice. Final warning. The house will be seized in 30 days unless the outstanding debt, now totaling over $60,000, just on the mortgage not counting other obligations, is paid in full. "I thought you should know the whole truth," Kelsey says quietly, "before you decide whether to help them. Before you think this is somehow your fault." She pulls a folder from her bag. She came prepared for this conversation and starts laying out documents. Bank statements going back 5 years. Credit card bills with charges at casinos, luxury retailers, exotic vacation resorts. Cash advance receipts. Multiple refinancings of the house, each one pulling equity out for immediate spending that disappeared without improving their situation. "Look at this." Kelsey points to a statement from 3 years ago. $20,000 withdrawn from their home equity line. You know what they spent it on: a 2-week cruise and a new car for Mom. Not even a year later, they refinanced again. I flip through the documents, seeing the pattern clearly. This isn't bad luck or unexpected medical expenses or any of the sympathetic narratives they tried to sell me. This is decades of living beyond their means, of maintaining appearances regardless of reality, of making increasingly desperate financial decisions, while assuming someone would eventually bail them out. "Mom tried to blame you," Kelsey continues, her voice hardening. "After your testimony today, before she collapsed, she was ranting about how you've turned everyone's life upside down, how your drama is destroying the family. But Amber," she looks at me directly, They did this to themselves. Long before anyone knew about your success. This has nothing to do with you. The vindication feels hollow. I was right about them, about their manipulation and their selfishness, but being right doesn't make it hurt less. There's something else I need to tell you, Kelsey says, her voice dropping. About me. About why I've been so horrible to you all these years. I wait, watching my sister struggle with words she's clearly never said out loud. I was terrible to you because I was terrified, she finally says. Mom put so much pressure on me to be the successful one, the perfect one, the daughter worth bragging about. Every conversation was about achievement, comparison, being better than everyone else. And the unspoken part was that I had to be better than you. Tears start rolling down her cheeks again. She made us compete when we should have been allies, sisters, friends. But instead she turned us into opponents in some contest where only one of us could win her approval. And I bought into it completely. I told myself you were the enemy, that your failures made my successes more valuable. I was cruel because cruelty kept me on top, kept me safe from Mom's disappointment. Her voice breaks completely. But I'm so tired, Amber. So tired of pretending to be perfect, of lying about promotions that aren't real, and success I haven't achieved. Of performing this version of myself that Mom created because the real me was never good enough. You escaped somehow. You built something real, something meaningful, despite everything they did to stop you. And I'm still here, still performing, still failing at being the golden child she wanted. I see my sister clearly, for perhaps the first time, not as the villain of my story, but as another person damaged by the same toxic system that damaged me. She got favor instead of love, attention instead of genuine care, and it hollowed her out just as surely as neglect hollowed me. I don't know how to fix this, she whispers. Any of it. Mom's health, the house, the debt, our family. I don't know how to fix us. Maybe we can't, I say quietly. Maybe some things are too broken. She nods, accepting this with a sadness that looks like relief. Like she's grateful someone finally said what she's been thinking. My phone buzzes. A message from Julia. Bank notified me foreclosure proceedings accelerated. House auction scheduled for next week. Thought you should know. I look at Kelsey at the hospital where our mother lies sedated at the evidence of decades of financial destruction spread across the waiting room chairs. I need to go to the house, I say, standing. See it myself. Understand what we're really dealing with. I'll come with you, Kelsey says immediately. You should stay. Be here when Dad comes out, when Mom wakes up. She nods, but grabs my hand before I can leave. Amber, whatever you decide about helping them, I'll understand. You don't owe them anything. You don't owe any of us anything. The words she's giving me permission to abandon them, permission to walk away, feel like the most genuine gift she's ever offered. I squeeze her hand once, then head toward the exit, toward the house that's about to be taken away, toward whatever truth is waiting there. The house looks violated. That's the word that comes to mind as I pull into the driveway, violated. The living room is visible through the front window, nearly empty now, dark rectangles on the walls where pictures used to hang. A moving truck is parked at the curb, workers loading the last pieces of furniture that creditors have claimed. Mom sits on the front steps in the cold November evening, wrapped in a coat that looks too thin for the weather. Her face is blotchy from crying. Her hair uncombed, a level of dishevelment I've never seen from her. She looks up as I approach, and even now, even in this moment of complete collapse, I see her trying to arrange her features into something that will move me. Amber, she says, her voice hoarse. Thank God you came. I stand at the bottom of the steps, maintaining distance, saying nothing. I know you're angry, she continues, tears starting fresh. I know I haven't been. I know things have been difficult. But I'm your mother. I raised you. I deserve your help now, don't I? After everything I sacrificed. The words are so perfectly calibrated to trigger guilt to activate decades of conditioning. But I hear them differently now. Not as truth, but as performance. Even her tears look rehearsed, produced on demand to achieve a specific effect, rather than expressing genuine emotion. I gave up my career for you girls. She presses on when I don't respond. I stayed home. I made meals. I drove you places. I did everything a mother should do. And now when I need help, you're just going to stand there in silence after everything. You're right, I say quietly. I am. She blinks, confused by my agreement. She was expecting denial argument, something she could work with. My acceptance of her accusation throws her off script. The front door opens and Dad steps out. He looks like he's aged 10 years in the past week. His shoulders sag with weight that's no longer possible to ignore or deflect. When he sees me, something crumbles in his expression. Amber, he says, and I hear genuine remorse in his voice. I'm glad you're here. We need to talk. Really talk. Not like before. Richard, tell her. Mom starts, but Dad holds up a hand. Linda, please. Let me say this. He comes down the steps, slowly moving like each step costs him something. When he reaches me, his hands are shaking. I should have protected you, he says, and his voice breaks on the words. From her favoritism, from the way she treated you and Kelsey differently from all of it. I told myself I was keeping the peace, that staying neutral was the right thing to do. That if I just didn't take sides, everything would work out. He wipes his eyes with the back of his hand. But neutrality in the face of injustice isn't peace, it's cowardice. I let your mother sabotage your MIT scholarship. I let her diminish your accomplishments. I let her treat you like you didn't matter because I was too afraid of conflict to stand up for my own daughter. I told myself I was being a good husband. I was just being a coward. The apology lands differently than Mom's performance. This feels real, pulled from somewhere deep and painful. It doesn't erase the decades of damage, but it's the first time anyone in this family has truly acknowledged what they did. There's something else, Dad continues. He goes back into the house and returns with a cardboard box, worn and dusty. 5 years ago, when you came to me about your project about the platform you were building, I told you not to tell your mother. I remember that conversation. I'd been so excited, so eager to share my vision, and Dad had listened carefully before saying quietly, maybe keep this between us for now. I knew if your mother found out, she'd find a way to ruin it, he says. Either by claiming credit or by sabotaging it to keep you dependent on the family or by turning it into something about Kelsey's needs instead of your work. So I told you to keep it secret, and I helped you maintain that secrecy. He opens the box. Inside are dozens of letters, all in my handwriting. Letters I'd sent him over the years, updating him on my progress, sharing my struggles, describing the patients we were helping. You sent these to my office so your mother wouldn't intercept them, he says. I kept every single one. Read them over and over. I couldn't protect you from her, but I could protect your dream from her. It's the only decent thing I did as your father in the last 10 years. The box of letters wavers in my vision as tears blur my eyes. This small act of protection, this secret alliance, it wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was something. He saw me when no one else did. I'm sorry, he whispers. I'm so sorry, Amber. You deserved better. You deserved a father who fought for you instead of one who just tried not to make things worse. Mom stands up, her face tight with frustration at being excluded from this moment. This is very touching, but we're losing the house in a week. Can we focus on what matters? The contrast between them is stark. Dad finally seeing his failures clearly. Mom still performing, still manipulating, still unable to access genuine remorse. I look at the house, at the moving truck, at my parents' faces. I think about the letters Dad saved, the secret support that allowed Care Connect to exist. I think about Kelsey at the hospital, finally honest about her own pain. I think about 37 years of being unseen and this moment where I hold all the power. I will help. I say, and Mom's face floods with relief. But under my conditions. Mom steps forward eagerly, already opening her mouth to outline what she expects, but I raise my hand to stop her. I'll help you find and rent a modest apartment, I say clearly. 2 bedrooms, safe neighborhood, nothing fancy. I'll cover the first 6 months of rent and basic utilities. That's it. An apartment. Mom's voice rises. Amber, we've lived in this house for 30 years. We can't just move to some tiny... Those are my terms, I interrupt. I'm not paying off your accumulated debt. That's yours to handle. I'm not restoring your old lifestyle. I'm giving you a foundation to rebuild from if you're willing to actually do the work of rebuilding. Dad nods slowly, understanding the distinction. Mom's face shows she wants to argue, wants to negotiate, but something in my expression must tell her this isn't a negotiation. In addition, I continue, you'll both attend family therapy, not just show up, actually engage, actually do the work of understanding how we got here. 6 months minimum weekly sessions. I've already contacted a therapist who specializes in family dysfunction and financial codependency. She's expecting your call. Therapy, Mom repeats, her voice flat. You want us to sit with a stranger and air our family business. I want you to learn why you made the choices you made, why you treated me the way you did, and how to have healthier relationships going forward. If you can't do that, then we have nothing more to talk about. What else? Dad asks quietly, and I'm grateful he's not fighting me on this. You'll both get part-time jobs, nothing demanding but something that gives you structure and helps you contribute to your own support. You're in your early 60s, plenty of people work at that age, and you'll learn to live within your means through financial counseling, which is also non-negotiable. Mom opens her mouth to protest, but I'm not finished. Most importantly, you'll post a public statement on social media correcting the lies you told reporters. You'll acknowledge that you weren't aware of my work, that you didn't support CareConnect's development, and that the narrative of being my champions was false. You'll do this with integrity, not performatively. You want us to humiliate ourselves publicly? Mom says, her voice shaking with anger now. I want you to tell the truth, I correct. If the truth feels humiliating, that's because lies were comfortable, but I won't help you continue living in a false narrative. And one more thing, I add, pulling out a list I prepared during the drive here. You'll write personal apology letters to people you've hurt over the years, the neighbors you gossiped about, the relatives you looked down on, the friends you dropped when they were no longer useful to your social standing. And me. You'll write me an honest letter acknowledging specifically what you did wrong and how it affected me. The list is long, names I've accumulated over the years, people I've watched my mother diminish or discard, names of people who deserved better from someone who claimed to be a pillar of the community. This is absurd, Mom says. You're treating us like children. I'm treating you like adults who need to take responsibility for their actions, I reply. If these conditions are too much, then decline them. Handle your situation yourself. But if you want my help, this is what it looks like. The silence that follows is heavy. Dad studies the ground. Mom's jaw works as she processes that I actually mean this, that I'm not softening or negotiating. What if we say no? She finally asks. Then you say no and you face foreclosure and you figure out your next steps without me. I'll wish you well, but I won't enable the same patterns that created this crisis. Dad looks at Mom, and something passes between them, a wordless communication built from decades of marriage. Finally, he speaks. We accept your terms, Amber. All of them. Richard, Mom protests, but he shakes his head. Linda, we have no other options. And honestly, she's right. We need to do this work. We've needed to do it for years. Mom's face crumples, and for a moment I think she might actually refuse out of pure stubbornness. But then her shoulders sag defeated. Fine, she whispers. Fine. We'll do it your way. I don't feel triumphant. I feel exhausted and sad and strangely empty, like I've been carrying a weight for so long that its removal leaves me hollow rather than light. These boundaries should have existed decades ago. This accountability should have been taught to me, not something I had to fight for. I'll email you the therapist's contact information and details about the apartment I've found. I say, first session is next Tuesday. Don't miss it. I turn to walk back to my car, feeling the weight of their stares on my back. The FBI agents have been waiting patiently, giving us space but staying alert. As I approach the car, I notice movement near the street. Someone is standing under the maple tree at the edge of the property, partially hidden in shadow. As I get closer, the person steps into the light from the street lamp. It's an elderly woman I don't immediately recognize. She's bundled in a thick coat, leaning slightly on a cane, her face creased with age, but her eyes bright and sharp. She's holding something, an envelope, I think. "Ms. Reynolds," she calls softly. "I hope I'm not intruding. I've been waiting to speak with you." I approach the woman cautiously, the FBI agents tensing slightly behind me. But there's something about her demeanor, gentle, patient, purposeful, that tells me she's not a threat. "Mrs. Helen," I say, and suddenly I recognize her. Helen Morrison from the Care Connect user database. 79 years old, lives in rural Pennsylvania, stroke patient from 18 months ago. I remember her case because the emergency response time was so critical. Our system detected her symptoms during a routine video check-in and had paramedics at her door within 8 minutes. "You remember me," she says, her face lighting up with surprise and pleasure. "I wasn't sure you would. You help so many people." "Of course I remember. How are you? How's your recovery been?" "That's why I'm here." She holds out the envelope with trembling hands. "To tell you that I'm alive because of you. Fully recovered, living independently, still in my own home. The doctors said if help had arrived even 20 minutes later, I would have died or suffered permanent brain damage that would have put me in a nursing home for whatever time I had left." Her eyes fill with tears, but they're not sad tears. "Instead, I'm here. I get to wake up in my own bed every morning. I get to tend my garden. I get to video call my grandchildren every Sunday. I get to live Miss Reynolds. Really live with dignity and independence. And that's because of what you built." My throat tightens with emotion I've been holding back all day, all week, maybe all my life. "I traveled 3 hours by bus to be here today," Helen continues. "My daughter thought I was crazy, offered to drive me, but I needed to do this myself. I needed to look you in the eye and tell you what you mean to people like me." She opens the envelope and pulls out not just a letter, but a thick folder of papers. "When I heard about the accusations against you, when I saw what that awful woman was trying to do, I got angry. Really angry in a way I haven't felt in years. So I started making phone calls. To other people I've met through Care Connect, to the support groups, to anyone I could find who's been helped by your platform." She hands me the folder and I open it to find dozens of handwritten letters, each one addressed to me. The handwriting ranges from shaky and uncertain to careful and precise. Some letters are decorated with drawings clearly done by grandchildren, showing hearts and flowers and stick figures with speech bubbles saying, "Thank you." There are 47 letters in there, Helen says, from people in 12 different states. Every single one of them wanted you to know that you're not alone, that we see you, that we're grateful for you. We wanted to send these to the Congressional Committee to make sure they understood what you've created isn't just a business, it's a lifeline. I flip through the letters, my vision blurring with tears. Each one tells a story: a man in Montana who avoided amputation, a woman in Mississippi who stayed connected to her daughter across the country, a veteran in Idaho who finally got treatment for service-related injuries. Story after story of lives changed, families kept together, dignity preserved. "We're invisible to most people," Helen says quietly. "Old people in rural areas, we don't matter much to policymakers or big companies. We're not profitable enough, not important enough. But you saw us. You built something specifically for us. You treated us like we matter." She reaches out and touches my face with one weathered hand, her palm warm against my cheek. The gesture is so maternal, so full of genuine affection, that something breaks open inside me. "Don't let anyone make you small, dear," she says firmly. Not your family, not your competitors, not anyone. You're extraordinary, and the people who love you, the ones whose lives you've touched, we see that clearly. We see you. I can't speak. I can only stand there with tears rolling down my face while this woman I've met exactly once treats me with more maternal tenderness than my own mother has shown in 37 years. I know your family is struggling right now, Helen continues, and I wonder how much she's observed while waiting here. I know family is complicated, but I want you to remember something. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who see your worth, who celebrate your gifts, who love you for exactly who you are. She squeezes my hand. You have a family, Ms. Reynolds. Thousands of us across this country who consider you one of ours. Who would go to battle for you? Who pray for you and cheer for you and want nothing but good things for you. Remember that when the blood family makes you feel small. She releases my hand and turns to leave, but then pauses. Oh, and there's one more thing inside that folder. A letter from all of us together. Read it when you're alone, when you need to hear it most. She walks slowly back toward the street, where I now notice a taxi waiting, her cane tapping against the sidewalk. I watch until she's safely in the car, until it pulls away, until the taillights disappear around the corner. Then I open the folder again, searching for the collective letter she mentioned. I find it at the bottom, thick paper, dozens of signatures covering every margin. The main text is short, just a few lines in careful handwriting. Dear Amber, you gave us our lives back. You gave us dignity when the world wanted to warehouse us. You gave us independence when others assumed we should be dependent. You saw us when we were invisible. Now we see you, and we want you to know you deserve to be loved the right way, with pride, without conditions, for exactly who you are. Thank you for everything. With love and gratitude. Your extended family. I stand under the streetlight holding letters from people I've never met, crying in a way I haven't cried since I was a child, not from pain, but from being seen, truly seen by people who ask nothing in return. Behind me, my parents' house sits dark and emptying, but in my hands I hold proof that I've built something more permanent than any childhood home. I've built a family of my own. The letters from Helen and the other patients stay with me through the following weeks as I navigate the aftermath of everything. The congressional testimony, the family crisis, the restructuring of relationships that can never return to what they were. I keep the folder on my desk, and on difficult days I open it and read a few entries to remind myself why this all matters. But Helen's words echo loudest. Family isn't just blood, it's the people who see your worth. I start making changes immediately. CareConnect expands from a platform into something more comprehensive, a nationwide network that becomes the model for elder care technology across the country. I hire not just for technical skills, but for values, building a team of people who understand that behind every data point is a human being deserving of dignity and care. We create a company culture where compassion isn't a corporate buzzword, but a daily practice. Julia becomes my chief operating officer. Marcus, who's been with me since the beginning, leads our expansion into 15 new states. We partner with rural hospitals, community health centers, and independent living facilities. The organization grows beyond anything I imagined 5 years ago, but it grows with intention, with humanity at its core. People start calling CareConnect the gold standard, not just for our technology, but for how we treat both patients and employees. Other companies try to replicate our model, and I'm genuinely happy about that. More people getting better care is always the goal. But I can feel myself fraying at the edges, stretched too thin between the company's growth, the ongoing family situation, and the emotional processing I haven't fully done. So I make a decision that would have been impossible for me even a year ago. I step back. Not permanently, not from leadership, but from the daily grind. I promote Julia to acting CEO for 3 months and rent a small cottage on a lake in upstate New York. A place where nobody knows me, where my phone has limited service, where I can exist without performance or expectation. The cottage is simple: 1 bedroom, a kitchen with windows overlooking water, a porch where I can watch sunrises that turn the lake into liquid gold. I bring Helen's folder, my laptop, and very little else. For the first week, I do almost nothing. I sleep late, take long walks, sit on the porch with coffee, and watch birds I can't name diving for fish I can't see. The silence is initially uncomfortable. I've spent so many years in motion, in productivity, in proving my worth through action. But slowly, the silence becomes something else. Not empty, but spacious. Room for thoughts. I've been too busy to think feelings I've been too defended to feel. I read the patient letters again more slowly this time, absorbing each story. I write responses to several, thanking them for their words, updating them on the company's growth. Some write back, and gradually a correspondence develops. These people, strangers who became family through shared purpose, begin to fill spaces inside me that blood relations left hollow. Helen calls every Sunday morning at 9. We talk about her garden, her grandchildren, the small dramas of her retirement community. But we also talk about deeper things: loss and resilience, aging and dignity. What it means to matter in a world that often treats elderly people as invisible. She asks about my week. Really asks, really listens. She tells me when I sound tired, when I need to rest more, when I'm pushing too hard. She mothers me in ways my own mother never did. In the quiet evenings, I start writing. Not for publication, not yet, but for processing. I fill journal after journal with memories, reflections, attempts to understand how my family's dysfunction shaped me and how I'm choosing to move beyond it. I write about the scholarship I lost, the years of being unseen the moment everything changed. I realize sitting in that cottage as autumn turns to early winter, that forgiveness isn't something I'm doing for my family. It's not about releasing them from responsibility or pretending the harm didn't happen. It's about releasing myself from the weight of carrying their failures, their choices, their inability to love me properly. I'm forgiving them because holding on to the pain is like drinking poison and expecting them to get sick. I'm choosing to set down that burden not because they deserve it, but because I do. Some days the forgiveness feels real solid, like something I can build on. Other days it dissolves and I'm angry again, grieving again, processing again. I'm learning that healing isn't linear, it's a spiral, circling back to the same wounds, but from different heights, different perspectives. By the time snow starts falling on the lake, I feel different. Lighter, but also more solid. Like I've shed layers of defense that were weighing me down and found something more durable underneath. I'm considering writing a book about this experience not as revenge or exposure, but as a map for other people who've been made invisible by their families, who've had to build worth from nothing, who've learned that success despite your family can be more powerful than success because of them. My phone rings on a Sunday evening, breaking my usual routine. Kelsey's name on the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail. Our last conversation was weeks ago, brief and surface level. But something makes me answer. Amber. Her voice sounds different. Quieter, less performative. Do you have a minute? There's something I need to tell you. I'm listening, I say, settling into the porch chair and wrapping a blanket around my shoulders against the evening chill. I've been going to therapy, Kelsey begins. Real therapy, not just showing up to check a box. And I'm starting to understand things about myself, about us, about how messed up everything was. I don't have it all figured out, not even close, but I'm trying. There's a vulnerability in her voice I've never heard before. No performance, no angle, just honesty. I got a job, she continues, medical receptionist at a community health clinic. It's not glamorous. The pay is okay, but I like it. I help people check in, I schedule appointments, I make sure elderly patients understand their paperwork. It feels real, more real than anything I've done in years. That sounds good, Kels. I'm paying down my debts slowly. It'll take years, but they're my debts, my responsibility. And I'm learning to live within my means. It's hard. Every day I want to buy something to make myself feel better, to look successful, to prove I'm okay. But I'm learning that being okay doesn't look like what I thought it did. She pauses, and I hear her take a shaky breath. I spent my whole life being what Mom wanted. The successful daughter, the pretty one, the one worth bragging about. I don't even know who I really am underneath all that performance. But I want to find out. Even if she's disappointing. Even if she's ordinary. I want to know who Kelsey actually is when she's not pretending. I think she might surprise you, I say quietly. I called because I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not like before when I was just trying to get something from you. I was cruel to you our entire lives. I participated in Mom's treatment of you. I made you feel small because it made me feel big. And I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me or even want a relationship with me. I just needed you to hear that I see what I did, and I'm ashamed of it. The apology lands differently than I expected. Maybe because I've done enough healing work to receive it. Or maybe because it's the first genuinely selfless thing she's offered me. Thank you for saying that, I tell her. It means something. We talk for a while longer carefully, like people learning a new language. Before we hang up, she asks if I might be willing to have dinner with the family sometime. Not in Ohio, not in their space, but somewhere neutral. Maybe, I say. Let me think about it. 3 weeks later, I meet them at a small restaurant in Pennsylvania, halfway between my cottage and their new apartment. It's nothing fancy, a family place with checkered tablecloths and a menu that hasn't changed in decades. Neutral ground. Mom looks diminished, somehow smaller, without the armor of her old life. She tries to control the conversation several times, suggesting what everyone should order, critiquing the decor, but Dad gently redirects her. It's awkward, painful in places, but there are also moments of something that might eventually become healing. Dad asks about Care Connect's expansion, and for the first time in my life, he really listens to my answer. He asks follow-up questions. He tells me he's proud of me, and though the words come decades too late, I let them land. Kelsey washes dishes when we finish, insisting she wants to help the elderly waitress who's been kind to us. It's a small gesture, but it shows she's trying. Mom doesn't apologize again. She struggles to let go of control, to accept that this new dynamic isn't temporary. But she doesn't attack either. She just sits there, diminished and uncertain, trying to navigate a world where she's no longer the center. This isn't a happy ending. It's a realistic beginning. We're not fixed. We might never be whole. But we're trying, and maybe that's enough for now. I return to the cottage that evening and sit on the porch watching snow fall on the frozen lake. The Presidential Medal of Freedom sits on my desk inside, but next to it is something I treasure more, a crayon drawing from a patient's great-granddaughter. It shows 2 stick figures holding hands, one labeled Grandma and one labeled Dr. Amber, even though I'm not a doctor. Above them, in wobbly letters, "Thank you for saving Grandma." That matters more than any official recognition. Helen calls the next morning and we talk about everything and nothing. She's become the mother I needed, and I've become the daughter she lost touch with years ago. Family, I've learned, isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to see you, to value you, to love you for exactly who you are. I'm considering adoption. Maybe fostering teenagers who feel invisible in their own families, who need someone to believe in them the way no one believed in me. I have space now, emotional space, physical space, financial space to offer what I never received. The book I'm writing is taking shape. Not a revenge narrative, but a map for people who've had to build worth from nothing. Who've learned that the family you create can be stronger than the family you're born into. I look out at the lake, at the morning sun turning ice into diamonds, and I think about the future I've built with my own hands. A company that serves thousands. A chosen family that sees me clearly. A peace that comes from knowing my worth isn't determined by whether my birth family can recognize it. I didn't take revenge through cruelty. I elevated myself and offered others the choice to rise with me. Some took it, some didn't. But the invitation was genuine, and that matters. The path ahead is mine, built on my terms, reflecting my values, belonging only to me. And nobody can ever take that away. And that's where Amber's story brings us today. She built an empire from silence, proved her worth without needing their validation, and created a family from the people who truly saw her value. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming so successful that those who dismissed you can't ignore you anymore. Then choosing grace over cruelty when you finally have the power. But here's what I want to know from you. Have you ever been underestimated by your own family? Have you ever had to prove yourself to people who should have believed in you from the start? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences help others feel less alone. If Amber's journey resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss stories about people who refused to stay invisible. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't determined by whether their family recognizes it. And here's my question for you to discuss in the comments. Was Amber right to set such strict conditions for helping her parents, or should family forgiveness come without strings attached? I'm genuinely curious what you think. This story has layers, and I want to hear your perspective. Thanks for listening to Amber's story, and I'll see you in the next one. I agreed to a cafe public and neutral. She looked different, older, thinner, with lines around her eyes that spoke of hard years. But she was sober, clear-eyed, and when she slid a notebook across the table, her hands didn't shake. I've been keeping this for 3 years, working through everything in therapy. I don't expect you to read it, but I needed you to see that I've been trying to understand myself, understand what I did. She paused. You were right. I had everything, and I wasted it hating you for being stronger than me. She didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't suggest we try again. She simply said, "Thank you for not giving up on being a good person, even when we gave you every reason to become cruel like us." I looked at my sister, this stranger who shared my DNA, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness, but release. I don't forgive you, I said honestly. Not yet, maybe not ever. But I don't hate you anymore either. You're a stranger who shares my DNA, and I hope you build a good life. We won't be sisters. We won't have holidays together. But I won't spend energy hating you. That's the best I can offer. That's more than I deserve, she whispered. We parted outside the cafe. No hug, no promises to stay in touch. Just 2 people who'd survived the same house and were healing in different directions. That night, I tucked Lily into bed, her small hand clutching her favorite stuffed bear. "Mama, do you have a sister?" I smiled. "I have someone I'm related to, but my real family is you and Daddy and Aunt Rosemary and all the people who choose to love us every day." "What if someone is mean to you?" "Then I walk away, because you can't force people to be kind, baby, but you can choose not to accept their cruelty." I kissed her forehead and closed the curtains on our home, a home filled with laughter, safety, chosen love. A home I'd built from nothing. Sometimes the family you build is stronger than the family you're born into. If Tara's story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because stories of survival, strength, and breaking free from toxic families need to be heard. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who couldn't accept your success? Or maybe you know someone who's been the scapegoat in their family. Share your thoughts. Your story might help someone else realize they're not alone. And here's a question for you. Do you think Tara made the right choice by not fully forgiving her family? Or should she have given them another chance? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective matters, and I read every single one. If you want more stories about people who overcame impossible odds and built lives on their own terms, this channel is for you. Subscribe now, and let's keep telling stories that remind us we're stronger than we think. See you in the next video.